Chapter 1268, The Slave Auction, 1. The days it spent with Len Ruoxue and the others were the happiest it had ever been. However, the moment it thought of its mission, Shuang could not relax. Furthermore, it did not want to implicate the three adorable little fellows. Hence, it was extremely conflicted. When Len Ruoxue saw Shuaying's conflicted expression, she chuckled and said, "Shuaying, although I don't know what you want, can you really do it by yourself? If you become one of us, then your business will naturally be our business. With our help, your business will be easier to handle. I don't want to implicate you. This matter is not easy to handle." Shuang spoke the truth. Since Len Ruoxue had already said so much, it would be a little too much if he were to continue being pretentious. Hence, he could only tell her the truth. "No matter how difficult your matter is, it's not as difficult as mine," Len Ruoxue said with a smile. Even though she didn't tell many people about the master of the secret realm, she knew that Shuaying's matter wouldn't be as troublesome as hers. Shuang was speechless. He knew that Len Ruoxue was referring to the person behind the mystic realm. However, he had to admit that she was right. A single mystic realm was enough to trap all of them. One could only imagine how powerful the person behind the mystic realm was. "If you're afraid of being implicated by us, you don't have to come with us." Len Ruoxue laughed evilly. "I'll go with you." Shuang sighed softly and said with a face full of helplessness. In order to convince it, Len Ruoxue had even goaded it into doing so. How could it still not know what was good for it? Moreover, she really liked being with them. It felt like home. "Then let's go," Len Ruoxue said with a smile. She was extremely satisfied. How could she not have a big fox who yearned for warmth? Exactly. Big Sister is not an ordinary person. At this moment, Baby's voice rang out in Len Ruoxue's heart. Instantly, her forehead was filled with black lines. Sob. She was too pleased with herself. How could she have forgotten that there was a group of peeping Tom in her heart? These little things' greatest joy was to peek at her inner thoughts. Poor Len Ruoxue, not a single one of the beasties was willing to tell her. Actually, her inner thoughts could be blocked. Because this was their greatest hobby, and it couldn't be taken away. After they turned into Snow Shadow, Len Ruoxue and her group left the snowy mountain in a grand manner. To make it easier for them to travel, Shuang had transformed into a mini fox. Although it had never liked to be so small, as it looked very unassuming, not only that, after it had shrunk, Len Ruoxue even hugged it in her arms like she was holding a pet. This made it even more uncomfortable. After all, it was an adult fox that was not young and had never acknowledged a master, let alone being hugged by a human. However, this human was a woman, which made it even more uncomfortable. However, it felt even more embarrassed because there was a pair of angry and covetous eyes staring at it. This made it feel very aggrieved. Sob. It wasn't like it wanted to be carried by Len Ruoxue. Why did she have to put the blame on it? It felt very wronged, okay? Shuang couldn't help but think to himself. As he walked, he glared at the uncomfortable fox. The evil demon's heart was about to spit fire, and the air pressure on his body was extremely low. He wanted to glare at the evil fox to death. The cold current on his body made Feng De and the others hide far away, not daring to take half a step closer to him, lest they become the scapegoats. It was not as if Len Ruoxue was completely unaware of the undercurrents around her. However, she chose to ignore them. After all, in her eyes, there was no difference between Shuang and the succubus. They were all very cute little beasts. Unless she was carrying a demon, the demon would not be happy no matter who she was carrying. However, demons could not be mimicked, so. Thanks after the group left the snow mountain, they didn't go back to the mountain. Instead, they started exploring the godly land. During this period, they had visited many cities. In addition to understanding the local customs of each city, they had also evaluated each city. Soon, a month had passed. As for Len Ruoxue and the rest, they had unknowingly arrived at a city in the Qi family's god domain. This city was called Bamboo City. It could only be considered a medium-sized city in the Qi family's divine domain, but it was extremely prosperous. It was not inferior to Qi City, the main city of the Qi family's divine domain. Len Ruoxue and the others walked on the streets and realized that there were many people on the streets. After asking around, they found out that there would be a slave auction 3 days later. Hence, there were many factions that came to participate. It wasn't easy for them to find an inn to stay in temporarily. However, there was only one guest room left in the inn. Len Ruoxue and the rest didn't mind. When the manager of the inn saw that they had agreed to share a room with so many people, he was deeply surprised. However, he did not dare to ask. After all, the people of the divine world could not just look at their appearance. Moreover, as the owners of the inn, they could not offend their customers at will. After booking the rooms, Len Ruoxue and the rest were about to head upstairs when someone suddenly called out to them. The person who called out to them was a man in his 30s. The man was tall and had a pretty face. However, the way he looked at Len Ruoxue made her extremely unhappy. "What's the matter?" Len Ruoxue asked indifferently. "Miss, can you give us the room? I'm willing to pay double the price. Moreover, there are so many of you in one room, I don't think it can fit so many people." The man said with a smile. "It's our business whether you can stay or not. Since we've already booked the room, there's no reason for us to give it up. It's to avoid sleeping on the streets at night." Feng De couldn't help but ask. "I said I'm willing to pay double the price," the man said with a good temper. He was not angry at Feng De's words. "Even if you pay 10 times the price, we won't let you have this room." Chen Wu also spoke. "There are so many of you, one room simply can't accommodate all of you. Since that's the case, why don't you do us a favor? We're from the Ascender Alliance. With our favor, you can do whatever you want on the godly mainland. So, you'd better consider it carefully," the man said with pride. Chapter 1269, The Slave Auction, 2, Is the Ascender Alliance that great? Why didn't I know that I could do whatever I want on the godly mainland if I owed the Ascender Alliance a favor? Then what do you think the 8 great divine domains are? Len Ruoxue asked with a calm smile. She did not have a good impression of the Ascender Alliance. Moreover, she would not have any hostility towards the indigenous people just because she was an Ascender. In her heart, friends were not distinguished by status and race, as long as they could enter her eyes. However, the self-righteous behavior of the Ascender Alliance obviously did not win her heart. Therefore, she naturally did not need to be polite, and there was no need for the Ascender Alliance to owe her any empty favors. How audacious! You dare to look down on our Ascender Alliance? I think you're tired of living. Suddenly, a sharp female voice interrupted. The crowd turned around and saw a woman in her early 20s glaring at Len Ruoxue. Her beautiful face was clearly filled with anger. No one knew if she was angry because Len Ruoxue looked down on the Ascender Alliance or because she was jealous because Len Ruoxue's face was more beautiful than hers. Did I say that I look down on the Ascender Alliance? What I mean is that your Ascender Alliance should know your own limitations. In the divine realm, you are not the only power. Therefore, when it's time to exercise restraint, don't be so smug. Len Ruoxue chuckled. You can stop quibbling. I'm not a fool. Don't tell me I can't understand the meaning in your words. In short, you look down on our Ascender Alliance. We will never let you go, the woman said angrily. Since you're certain that I look down on the Ascender Alliance, then do as you please. Let's go. After Len Ruoxue finished speaking, she led the group upstairs without turning back. Their room was located on the 4th floor. It was a top-grade suite with a total of 5 rooms. The facilities inside were also rather luxurious. After entering the room, Len Ruoxue took out her own room and placed it in the room. The advantage of her house was that it could adjust its size according to the size of the storage area. Therefore, it was fine as long as people could enter it normally. After all, the interior of the house was a space of its own, so the size of the house was irrelevant. After entering the room, Len Ruoxue and the rest went back to their own rooms to rest. However, Master Ning summoned his personal guard and gave some instructions. Then, one of the guards left the room. At night, Len Ruoxue and the demon walked out of their room and into the garden. To their surprise, dinner was already prepared. "Godfather, did you ask your people to prepare all this food?" Len Ruoxue said. "Hee. That's right. Even though the food here is not as delicious as yours, it is still considered top grade in the divine realm. I had to send someone to Qi City to specially buy these. You can't buy them in Hui City at all," Master Ning said proudly. "Tsk. Look at how beautiful you are," the great elder at the side said sarcastically. He couldn't bear to see this old fellow being smug. What should he do? What's wrong? Bite me. The master of the Ning family shouted with his hands on his hips. When his subordinates saw their master's state, they all turned their heads to the other side. "Godfather, can we eat now? I'm hungry." Len Ruoxue saw that they were about to quarrel again and quickly changed the topic. Otherwise, if they really started quarreling, this meal would probably be ruined again. "Thanks, since your goddaughter is hungry, then hurry up and eat. Don't starve yourself and lose weight," the master of the Ning family quickly said. "Yup. Since her god-granddaughter was hungry, she should hurry up and eat. You've lost weight," the grand elder said. Len Ruoxue was speechless when she heard the words of these two. These two old men liked to disagree with each other and were fiercer than their grandpas when they quarreled. But their relationship was surprisingly good. At least when they saw someone bullying the other party, they would definitely not sit by and do nothing. What a strange way of getting along. "Eat," Len Ruoxue said helplessly. "Yes." Everyone nodded and found a place to sit down. After the meal, the great elders started to chat about the slave auction. "Godfather, what's going on with this slave auction?" Len Ruoxue asked with a puzzled look. She never thought that there would be a special slave auction in the god world. However, those slaves must be having a hard time. After all, the god world was a cruel place where people ate people. "It's a long story," the master of the Ning family sighed. "Can't you make it short?" The great elder rolled his eyes at the master of the Ning family and said unhappily. He didn't like this stinky old man to keep them in suspense. Other than Shuer and the others, who here didn't know what kind of auction it was. "What does it have to do with you?" "The goddaughter is asking me." The master of the Ning family couldn't help but shout. "I'm just feeling indignant. If you want to say it, then say it quickly. If you're keeping me in suspense, I'll say it for you," the first elder said with an evil smile. "Don't meddle. Do you know as much as I do?" Master Ning's face darkened as he shouted unhappily. However, when he saw Len Ruoxue, he immediately put on a smile and said in an affable manner, "My good daughter. Since you've asked, I'll tell you. You also know that the strong are respected in the divine realm, and strength is supreme, right? As for these slaves, they are the lowest class of people in the divine realm. Their status in the divine realm is not even comparable to that of a beast. One can only imagine how difficult their lives are. Slaves, on the other hand, have no self-respect and no sense of self. Their lives belong to their masters. If their masters ask them to die, they have to die. They have to obey whatever their masters ask them to do. Otherwise, the overbearing slave contract will not let them go." The master of the Ning family paused before continuing. "How did those people become slaves? You can't be born a slave, right?" Len Ruoxue asked curiously. "Unless they are the offspring of a slave, of course, no one is born a slave. There are many reasons for becoming a slave, but the most common one is the extermination of a family. When a family is exterminated, the people who are still alive will become slaves even if they are alive. So, in my opinion, they might as well be dead. The master of the Ning family sighed. Little girl, in the divine realm, the sale of slaves is legal, and becoming a slave, other than being born with it, is more likely to be caused by human factors. If I have an enemy and I don't want him to die too easily, I'll turn him into a slave. Once he becomes a slave, he can't resist even if he wants to, because the slaves are all bound by some kind of restriction. Once they resist, they'll be greeted with a fate worse than death. The great elder sighed. This kind of slavery system could be said to be very cruel and inhumane. He had always disapproved of it, but it was allowed by the Divine Lord's estate. Chapter 1270, The Slave Auction, 3, How can you turn your enemy into a slave? After being in the immortal world for so long, this was the first time Leng Ruoxue had heard of the ability to turn one's enemies into slaves. This was because her enemies were all dealt with by herself. You just need to report to the God Lord's manor. Isn't there a guild for quests in the divine realm? As long as you go to the mission guild and pay enough jingsher, someone will naturally do this for you, and you don't have to worry at all. The great elder explained. Oh. Leng Ruoxue finally understood. My dear daughter, are you interested in the slave auction? If there is, we can stay here for a few days and take a look at the slave auction. However, the standard of the slaves in the slave auction on the godly mainland is not very high. The master of the Ning family said. Yes, I want to go and take a look. Leng Ruoxue nodded. She had never seen a slave auction before. Naturally, he wanted to experience it. Then he'll send someone to make a reservation. You're only responsible for going. Master Ning said with a smile. All right, he said. Leng Ruoxue nodded. The next day. The master of the Ning family sent someone to book a private room at the slave auction while Leng Ruoxue and the rest went out for a stroll on the streets. When they found a restaurant to eat, they actually met the woman from yesterday again. She was followed by 10 or so followers. After she swaggered into the restaurant, she was just about to find a place to sit down when she saw Leng Ruoxue and her group. Instantly, she was filled with anger and came to Leng Ruoxue and her group angrily. Why are you guys here? This is not a place for people like you. The woman said with a look of disdain. Can't we be here? Oh. Are you saying that this restaurant's grade is too low, so we shouldn't come here? Leng Ruoxue asked with an evil smile. She had heard that this restaurant was the largest and best in Yi City, so they had come to try the food here. Who would have thought that they would meet that woman here again? She wondered if this could be considered as enemies meeting on a narrow road. What are you talking about? This restaurant is owned by the Qi family, yet you dare to insult the Qi family like this. I think you're tired of living. The woman shouted loudly, as if she was afraid that no one could hear her. The manager of the restaurant, who had rushed over after hearing their voices, looked at the young woman with a headache, not knowing what to do. AI. He was not a fool. He could naturally see that this woman was deliberately looking for trouble. However, she was a guest. It was not good for the guest to be here. Before they figured out the identity of the guest, they could not drive her away. Otherwise, if they offended all the guests, who would patronize them in the future? Therefore, the shopkeeper was very conflicted. Hee. Everyone should know him. Since everyone is an old acquaintance, it's fine to simply reminisce about the past. Don't let your emotions get the better of you. After all, we're all here for a meal, and being angry won't help with digestion. The shopkeeper tried to smooth things over, and his words were also very subtle. Originally, he thought that the best result would be to keep things peaceful. After leaving this restaurant, you can fight as you like. Even if someone dies, it's none of his business. However, you can't make a scene here. However, his good intentions were not fully appreciated. Leng Ruoxue and the rest only laughed when they heard the manager's words. They did not have much of a reaction. However, the woman immediately exploded when she heard the manager's words. Are you a member of the Qi family? She's humiliating your family. How can you be so indifferent? The woman shouted with a face of disappointment. However, she was more angry that the manager of this restaurant was not of the same mind as her. From a young age, she had always gotten whatever she wanted and very few people dared to disobey her. Therefore, she had developed an extremely overbearing character, so the shopkeeper's words were not to her liking. Who dares to humiliate our Chi clan? Before the innkeeper could answer, a male voice suddenly interrupted. Len Ruoxue and the others looked in the direction of the voice and realized that they recognized the person. It was none other than the Chi clan genius who had gone to the snow mountain with them. Chi Rui stood beside the Chi clan genius and secretly winked at them. However, the Chi clan's genius was still in tatters and looked extremely haggard. On the contrary, Chi Rui's complexion was quite good, even though his clothes were a little disheveled. Len Ruoxue and the rest were confused when they saw their reaction. What was going on? Judging from the time, the Chi family should have returned to Chi City by now. Why would they appear here in such a state? The restaurant manager only frowned at the Chi family's genius words. However, he did not say anything. Although he did not know the person who spoke, he recognized the person standing beside him. That person was the young master of the Chi family. After receiving the young master's gaze, he was smart enough not to say anything. Thanks, it's them. When the woman heard the voice, she quickly turned her head in excitement. However, when she saw the person who spoke was dressed in rags, her excitement immediately disappeared. She even looked at the other party with disdain and said in an extremely displeased tone, "Where did you come from, beggar? You have no right to speak here, so stop interrupting. Get out. You're not welcome here." Hearing the woman's words as if she was shooing a fly, the Chi family genius was furious and couldn't help but curse in his heart. She had never seen such a snob. Wasn't it just his clothes that were a little torn? Even an outsider was looking down on him. This was the Chi family's territory. If he was really kicked out by an outsider, what face would he have in the future? Thinking of this, the Chi family genius directly instructed the shopkeeper, "Shopkeeper, chase this uncultured woman out. She's not welcome in any of our Chi family's shops in the future." When the shopkeeper heard the Chi family's genius words, he didn't immediately do as he was told. Instead, he sneaked a glance at Chi Rui. After receiving his signal, he didn't have the time to speak before someone else spoke first. "You dare? Who do you think you are, to actually dare to chase me away? Do you know who I am?" The woman roared in anger. She was so angry that smoke came out of her 7 orifices and she almost fainted. "I don't care who you are. You're not welcome in our Chi clan's territory. You can get out of here yourself, or I'll send someone to throw you out. It's your choice," the Chi family's genius said unhappily. He had been arrogant since he was young, so he naturally had no reason to be looked down upon by a woman. Moreover, there was another more detestable woman watching the show, so he couldn't embarrass himself. "What are you still doing? Hurry up and do it." The Chi family genius glared at the manager and roared. "Men! Please escort this young lady out." The shopkeeper hurriedly shouted towards the inner hall. Immediately, a group of tall and burly waiters rushed out from inside and threw the young woman and her group out as if they were carrying little chicks. Then, the waiters disappeared from the dining hall in a well-practiced manner. Not long after, curses could be heard from outside the restaurant, but no one paid any attention to them. Len Ruoxue and the rest looked at this dramatic scene with amusement. They were speechless. This was really a myriad of changes in an instant. In the blink of an eye, those who had wanted to join forces with the Chi clan to deal with them were thrown out of the restaurant in an extremely embarrassing way. "Miss Leng, I didn't expect to see you here." At this moment, the Chi family's genius walked up and greeted him. "What a coincidence. Young Master Chi, what's wrong with you? Could it be that you were robbed in the snow mountain?" Len Ruoxue asked with a puzzled look. Her beautiful face was still filled with question marks. "No, we found the secret realm and rescued the people trapped there." I killed the mastermind behind the secret realm, but I was seriously injured and many of my subordinates died. AI. When we return to the Qi family, I'll ask for a reward for them. The Qi clan genius said with a pained expression. I see. Young Master Qi, if you don't explain, I'll think that you've been raped by a female beast. Feng De laughed and teased, the female beasts in the forest would probably like this kind of pretty boy. The Qi family's genius was so angered by Feng De that he couldn't speak. However, Len Ruoxue and the others couldn't hide the smile on their faces. Cheng Wu and the others even laughed exaggeratedly. This made the Qi family's genius even more furious. I'm sorry, young Master Qi, my subordinate likes to joke around, please don't mind him. Len Ruoxue tried her best to hold back her laughter. I don't mind. Qi clan's genius suppressed his anger. Then, he turned to Len Ruoxue and said, Miss Leng, why are you here in Ning City? We heard that there's a slave auction here, so we came to take a look. Len Ruoxue said indifferently. Oh. Does Miss Leng also want to buy a few slaves? Why don't you let me do my best as the host? The Qi family young master said enthusiastically. That's too much trouble, young Master Qi, there's no need for that. Len Ruoxue rejected softly, but the Qi family's young master clearly did not give up. It's no trouble at all. We will stay in Ning City until the end of the slave auction. After all, this is the territory of our Qi clan. With me here, the people from the Mission Guild will give our Qi clan some face. So, you don't have to worry about the commission. The Qi clan genius said confidently. After hearing what the Qi family's genius said, the master of the Ning family nodded slightly at Len Ruoxue. Len Ruoxue understood and replied, all right then. Then I will have to trouble young Master Qi to take care of it. It's my honor, Miss Leng doesn't need to take it to heart. The Qi family's young master said with grace. He was very satisfied with Len Ruoxue's tactfulness. However, when he thought of his own sorry state, he apologized, Miss Leng, I'm sorry. I'll go back to wash up and change my clothes first. I'll see you at the auction then. All right, he said. Len Ruoxue nodded, then watched as the Qi family's genius and Qi Rui left. After that, she couldn't help but look at her godfather and asked in confusion, Godfather, why did you let him follow us? The commission for a slave from the Guild of Missions is very expensive. Since he is willing to do us a favor, then it would be a waste if we don't take it. The master of the Ning family said disapprovingly. Godfather, I don't intend to buy slaves. Len Ruoxue was a little speechless. She really didn't know what her godfather was thinking. Just to save a few commissions, he actually let someone they didn't really like follow by his side. Wasn't this price a little too high? Chapter 1271, An Acquaintance at the Auction, 1, There's no harm in being prepared. It'd be a waste not to use the labor that's delivered to our door. The master of the Ning family said nonchalantly. Actually, he had his own reasons for making Len Ruoxue agree to that kid's request. In his opinion, although that kid was dispensable in the Qi family, he could be a good chess piece if used well. After the Secret Realm incident, he had to pull a few of the 8 families from the 8 divine realms to his side, so that they wouldn't be too passive in the future. That's true. Then, Godfather will make good use of him. Len Ruoxue said helplessly. I say, old thing, he's the Qi clan's genius, and you still want to use him. The first elder said with an evil smile. So what if he's a genius of the Qi family? Geniuses like him are aplenty in the Qi clan, so it doesn't matter if he's here or not. The master of the Ning family said disapprovingly. TSK. Don't think that I don't know what you're thinking. You're trying to use him to drag that old thing from the Qi family down with you. The first elder said with an understanding expression. Hee hee. You're right, that old thing is too cunning and timid, so I had to do this. Humph. If he doesn't join forces with me, I'll have no choice but to take drastic measures. The master of the Ning family said proudly. Oh. Could it be that you want to use that matter to threaten that old thing from the Qi family? The great elder asked curiously. If this matter were to spread, the Qi family would be in deep trouble. Old man Ning's plan was too vicious. He couldn't help but think to himself. However, there was nothing he could do about it. His opponent was too strong. Don't make it sound so bad. I'm afraid he'll back down, so I have no choice. The master of the Ning family also said with a difficult expression. Come on. I still don't know you. The great elder rolled his eyes at the master of the Ning family and said in disdain. Godfather, great elder, please stop. We should go back. Leng Ruoxue sighed softly and said helplessly. These two people treated bickering as a form of entertainment. However, as outsiders, they were shocked to see it. They were afraid that one day, they would really start a fight because of a disagreement. Oh. Then let's go back. The master of the Ning family glared at the great elder. After that, everyone returned to the inn together. 2 days later. The slave auction had officially begun. The slave auction was held in the largest auction house in Ning City, and this auction house was naturally owned by the Qi clan. When Leng Ruoxue and her group arrived at the auction house, they went straight to the VIP box they had reserved. Not long after, the Qi clan's genius and Qi Rui arrived as well. The genius brought along dozens of attendants, all dressed in black. After the genius and Qi Rui sat down, they stood behind them in an orderly and well-trained manner. When Leng Ruoxue and the rest saw this, they were speechless. They felt as though they were looking at someone they knew. Even the woman who claimed to be from the Ascender Alliance had so many people behind her. However, they knew very well that not all powerful people liked to be smug. For example, the master of the Ning family generally did not allow his subordinates to follow too close. Sometimes, he did not allow his subordinates to follow him because he was afraid of being surrounded by people. However, the face of the woman in front of them clearly said, "Come and watch me." "Thanks, Miss Leng, if there are any slaves that you fancy, remember to tell me. I'll get the mission association to give you an internal price." Seeing that no one was paying attention to him, the Qi clan genius spoke up. "All right, I'll thank you in advance." Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. "There's an internal price for this slave. Could it be that there's something shady going on in this slave auction?" Feng De asked curiously. As far as he knew, every auction should have a clear price, and there was no such thing as an internal price. Could it be that this slave auction was different? Of course there is. Actually, the auction is just a distraction. Many slaves already have owners. However, in order to show the fairness of the guild, they have an auction. The Qi clan genius explained proudly. After all, this kind of inside information was not something that everyone could know. Then what if someone offers a higher price for a slave that has caught someone's eye? Leng Ruoxue asked in confusion. Usually, this kind of thing doesn't happen. After all, the participating forces all have a tacit understanding with each other. It's rare for someone to steal another person's slave. The Qi clan genius explained. What if there is? It can't be that all the forces have a tacit understanding. Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. Ah. Such a thing has never happened before. The Qi clan genius wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and couldn't help but think to himself, "Woo. How can such a beautiful woman be so difficult to deal with?" "Oh." Leng Ruoxue responded softly and did not say anything else. "Miss Leng, these slaves aren't worth much. So, generally speaking, there are very few situations where people fight over them. After all, they aren't anything good." The Qi clan genius couldn't help but argue. "Yes, I understand." Leng Ruoxue chuckled. As the auction officially began, the first 10 slaves were quickly won by a force. Then, more slaves were brought to the auction stage for the crowd to watch and auction. In the eyes of the people of the divine realm, the slaves that appeared first were of the lowest quality and were also the least valuable. The later they appeared, the higher the quality and price of the slaves would be. Thus, many powers did not make any moves, only waiting to auction off the slaves that they had already taken a fancy to. Thus, this slave auction was not as enthusiastic and popular as an item auction. The rules of the slave auction were similar to those of the item auction. The highest bidder would get the item. However, this was only for show. There were hundreds of slaves to be auctioned in this auction. Except for a few who had been selected by the major forces, most of them were ownerless. These ownerless slaves could naturally be bid by the major forces at will. In the VIP box. Looking at the slave auction that was already in the middle of the auction, Feng De and the others were full of questions. They couldn't understand why the major forces were still in the mood to buy slaves after suffering such a heavy blow. He really was heartless. At the very least, they wouldn't have the time to do so. Chapter 1272, An Acquaintance at the Auction. 2. Miss Leng, the quality of these slaves on the stage right now is still not bad. Won't you consider buying a few? The genius from Qi clan couldn't help but ask when he saw Lin Ruoxue and the rest were so bored that they were about to fall asleep. They're not worthy of my attention, Lin Ruoxue said indifferently. However, she couldn't help but despise the Qi family's genius in her heart. The main reason was that she despised him for being too noisy. Just watch your auction quietly. Why are you spouting so much nonsense? She didn't appreciate it at all. Oh. Don't worry, there'll be even better ones later. The Qi clan genius laughed. Yes. Leng Ruoxue nodded and did not say anything else. The Qi clan's genius saw that the other party was unwilling to pay attention to him, so he could only shut his mouth. After all, he kept feeling a sinister gaze staring at him, which made him feel oppressed. The gaze gave him too much pressure, but when he tried to find the person who had that gaze, he could not find anything. Without the Qi family's geniuses trying to find a topic to talk about, Lin Ruoxue and the rest enjoyed the peace and quiet. The atmosphere became heavy. The slave auction was very fast. As the auction progressed, it soon came to an end. At this time, 20 slaves were on the auction stand. This was the last group of slaves to be auctioned, and also the group with the best quality. The most unique feature of these 20 slaves was their extremely handsome appearance. The moment they appeared, everyone's eyes lit up. Many people's eyes revealed a lustful light, and some even kept swallowing their saliva. It should be known that slaves were the private property of their masters. They had to do whatever their masters asked them to do. Therefore, after these slaves were auctioned off, the handsome ones had a high possibility of becoming the master's exclusive property. The masters who would do such things were regardless of gender. However, when Lin Ruoxue and the rest saw the slaves on the stage, their pupils constricted and their faces were filled with anger. They actually saw people they knew among them, and there was more than one of them. This fact made them feel a little embarrassed and angry. Those two slaves are not bad, I want them. Leng Ruoxue pointed at the two most handsome men on the stage and said to the Qi clan's genius. Miss Leng has taken a fancy to those two. Wait a moment, I'll send someone to inform the people from the guild. The Qi family genius quickly said and ordered his subordinates to handle this. Not long after, the subordinate returned, but he had a conflicted look on his face. The subordinate came to the Qi family genius' side and whispered a few words before retreating to the side. At this moment, the Qi family's genius said apologetically, I'm sorry, Miss Leng. Those two slaves have already been reserved by someone. You see if you should choose another two. The people from the Mission Guild said that they can give you a 50% discount. Out of so many people, I only have my eyes on the two of them. Let the Quest Guild name a price. I'm definitely taking these two. Lin Ruoxue was unmoved. The anger in her heart had already reached its peak. Thanks, Miss Leng, do you really have to have these two? The Qi family young master wanted to confirm. Of course, these two people must leave with me today. Leng Ruoxue said in a serious tone. Young Lady Leng, to tell you the truth, these two people were ordered by the Ascender Alliance. Now, the Ascender Alliance's influence in the divine realm is not small. Therefore, there is really no need to become hostile with them because of 2 slaves. The young master of the Qi family advised earnestly. In fact, he felt that it was unwise to provoke the Ascender alliance for the sake of 2 slaves, so he wanted to persuade them. Young Master Qi, don't you think it's a little too late to say that? Len Ruoxue chuckled as she teased. Yup. Young Master Qi, you've already become enemies with the Ascender alliance, so it's no big deal to have one more, right? Could it be that the Ascender alliance is so powerful that even your Qi clan doesn't dare to provoke it? If that's the case, then just pretend we didn't say anything. Feng De said with an evil smile. When did I become enemies with the Ascender alliance? Although Feng De's words made him a little unhappy, he still had to ask clearly. When did he become enemies with the Ascender alliance? Why didn't he know about it? Do you still remember the people you had the restaurant manager throw out 2 days ago? They are all from the Ascender alliance and know that you are a member of the Qi family. You tell me, you have made them lose so much face, will they bear a grudge? Feng De reminded him with a smile, hee hee. This guy wanted to be the peacemaker, but he couldn't stay out of it. No matter what, they had to muddy the water. Are those people from the Ascender alliance? The Qi family's young master was shocked. He had thought that she was just a young lady from a small family. After all, many families had come to Bamboo City to participate in the auction these days. He didn't expect that his casual display of power would be directed at the Ascender alliance. Yup. That woman claimed to be from the Ascender alliance. As for whether it's true or not, no one knows. Feng De said irresponsibly. That woman is the daughter of the Ascender alliance's second alliance master. The master of the Ning family said indifferently. Second alliance? Which second league? The Qi family genius was shocked and asked. Don't worry, they're only from the Divine Continent. However, they also have a close relationship with the Ascender alliance's second alliance master. The master of the Ning family laughed and couldn't help but sigh. Hee hee. Little brat. I'll scare you first, even though I might not be afraid. Godfather, you've scared young Master Qi so much that he doesn't even dare to speak. Len Ruoxue looked at the Qi clan's genius, who had been silent for a long time, and pretended to complain. Hee hee. I'm so sorry, young man from the Qi family, I've been rude. Don't worry, the Ascender alliance won't do anything to you. The Qi family will definitely protect you. The master of the Ning family quickly comforted him. I'm not afraid of the Ascender alliance, and our Qi clan is even less afraid. The Qi family genius said while holding back his anger. Damn it, these people's words were too hateful. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to maintain his perfect image, he really wanted to teach these people a lesson. That's good. Look at the 2 slaves that my good daughter has taken a fancy to, the master of the Ning family asked with anticipation. He was only halfway through his sentence. The other half was naturally waiting for the Qi family's geniuses to take the bait. Chapter 1273, An Acquaintance at the Auction, 3, Leave it to me, the Qi clan genius gritted his teeth. Although he hated these hateful fellows, he still had to maintain his reputation. When he had the chance in the future, he would teach these people a good lesson. Then I'll have to trouble young Master Qi, Len Ruoxue said with a smile. It's no trouble at all. Qi clan's genius quickly said. He then ordered his subordinates to pass on his message to the person in charge of the missions guild. A moment later, the subordinate returned to the private room with a very ugly expression. What's wrong? The Qi family genius asked in confusion when he saw his subordinate's expression. Young master, the people from the mission guild said that this matter was personally instructed by the 2 Ascendants Alliance master. Their guild master also agreed, so they can't make a decision. The subordinate reported. AI. It seemed that young Master Qi was not worthy enough. Otherwise, how could a puny second alliance leader have more influence than you? You should know that you're a direct descendant of the Qi family. Feng De couldn't help but sigh when he heard his subordinate's words. I'll go find him personally. Miss Leng, leave this matter to me. The Qi family's genius said angrily. Although he knew that the other party was trying to goad him, he had no choice but to fall for it. With that, the Qi family genius stood up and walked out of the door angrily. His subordinates naturally had to follow. Looking at the Qi family's genius and his followers, Feng De asked curiously, Miss, do you think the Qi family's genius can do this? He was suspicious of the Qi family's genius ability. Whether it's successful or not, I'm taking both of them with me. Leng Ruoxue said, holding back her anger. The two people were none other than Yu Lin and Lan Ming, the master and disciple they knew. Although she didn't know how they ended up as slaves, they were her friends. Therefore, she couldn't just sit by and do nothing. Yes, but I don't understand. How did they offend the master of the Second Alliance? Feng Da's face was full of question marks. There's no need to guess. We'll know when we ask them. Leng Ruoxue said coldly as a cold glint flashed across her eyes. After a long time, the Qi clan's genius had finally returned. Apart from his subordinates, Lan Ming and Yu Lin had also returned with him. When the two of them were brought down the stage, Leng Ruoxue knew that this was a private deal. As expected, it did not take long for the two of them to be brought to their private room. Even though she did not know what methods the Qi clan's genius had used, it had saved her a lot of effort. When Lan Ming and Yu Lin saw Leng Ruoxue and the rest, a look of surprise flashed across their eyes. But very quickly, they lowered their heads in shame, not daring to look at the crowd. Miss Leng, I've brought you the person you wanted. The Qi clan genius said proudly. Thank you, young Master Qi. How much would it cost to buy them? Leng Ruoxue probed. It's not much money. Miss Leng, you don't have to take it to heart. Just take these two people as my gift to you. The Qi family genius said generously. Thanks, then I won't be polite. Leng Ruoxue said gratefully. You don't have to be so polite with me. The Qi clan genius was a little too pleased with himself. However, in an instant, he felt a sharp gaze lock onto him, which made him tremble in fear. Young Master Qi, since we've already bought the slaves we wanted, we won't stay any longer. Well, take our leave first. Leng Ruoxue stood up and said politely. I'll send you back. When young Master Qi heard that Leng Ruoxue was preparing to go back, he tried to please her. There's no need to trouble yourself, we can go back on our own. Leng Ruoxue rejected. It's no trouble, it's on the way. The Qi clan genius said. All right then. Leng Ruoxue said helplessly. Since he had brought Lan Ming and Yu Lin to her, she would let him send them off this once. However, Feng De and the others couldn't help but curse when they heard the Qi family's genius words. Damn, it's on the way, my ass. It's clearly far away. However, since the miss didn't refuse, as her subordinates, they couldn't make their own decisions. Just like that, Leng Ruoxue and the rest were accompanied by the Qi clan's geniuses. They were about to leave the auction hall, but just as they reached the entrance, they were stopped by someone. Stop right there. They're my people, who allowed you to take them away. A woman's shrill voice rang out from behind them. The moment he finished speaking, Leng Ruoxue and the others were surrounded. Looking at the men in black who had surrounded them, then at the foolish woman who was about to yell at them, Leng Ruoxue and the rest were speechless. This was really a narrow road for enemies. However, ever since they found out that Lan Ming and Yu Lin had been ordered by the two Ascender alliances, they had guessed that they might meet this woman here. However, what Leng Ruoxue was currently thinking was, why did all her subordinates like to wear black? What do you mean by robbing? We were the ones who bought them. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Bullshit. I've already decided on these two people. You guys really don't want to live anymore. You actually dare to snatch people from our Ascender alliance. Humph. My mother won't let you off. The woman shouted angrily. Set. Have you paid? As long as they didn't pay, the seller had the right to sell them to others. Moreover, wasn't the rule of the auction house that the highest price would get it? If they don't sell it to me, there's no justice in this world. Leng Ruoxue deliberately distorted the truth. In reality, if the buyer and seller had a mutual understanding, it would not be reasonable for her to interfere. However, she had to bring these two people away. Hence, she could only do this. You are clearly breaking the rules of the auction. Our Ascender Alliance will not let you off. The woman roared in anger. She then ordered her subordinates, go. Take these people down. Shua shua. We have so many people, and you want to take us down? You really think we're pushovers? Fengde laughed, his face full of mockery. A woman without a brain was pathetic. She didn't even look at how many people they had and wanted to take them down. This was really ridiculous. Chapter 1274, An Acquaintance at the Auction. 4. Don't be too proud of yourself. They're the elites of our second league. It'll be easy for them to take down you pretty boys and soft-legged shrimps. Don't even think that it'll let you off. The woman said confidently. Pretty boy. Soft-legged shrimp? Was he talking about them? Fengde and the others looked at each other in confusion when they heard the woman's words. However, they didn't think she was talking about them, so they turned to look at the Qi family's genius and said in unison, Young Master Qi, this woman said you're a pretty boy and a soft-legged shrimp. Hearing Fengde and the others' words, young Master Qi almost passed out. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. Fuck, are you saying that him alone? He was clearly talking about you guys, alright. He felt so wronged. However, he would put all the blame on that annoying woman in front of him. Humph. However, she was the daughter of the godly Mainland's Alliance master. What was there to be proud of? She even dared to call him a gigolo and a soft-legged shrimp. This was even more unforgivable. What are you guys waiting for? He's going to teach us a lesson, why aren't you doing it? The Qi clan genius said to his subordinate with a dark expression. Yes. The subordinates replied. In an instant, they started to fight with the Ascender Alliance. Leng Ruoxue and the others were happy to watch from the sidelines. You guys, hurry up and teach them a good lesson. The woman cheered from the side. She had too much confidence in her subordinates, so she had never thought that these people she had brought would be a match for the other party. How do you want to teach us a lesson? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously as she looked at the ladies who were cheering for her. I'm going to sell you, the ugly and old ones, as slaves, and make those pretty boys my exclusive slaves. The woman said without even thinking. That's not a bad idea. Godfather, Great Elder, it seems like we can't even enter this young lad's eyes. We're all going to be sold as slaves. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Yup. I didn't expect that I would still have the chance to be a slave at this age. I just don't know who can afford to buy me. The Great Elder said gloomily. In his heart, he wanted to cut the woman in front of him into 8 pieces. Fuck. Was he considered a fallen tiger in the sun? The daughter of a mere Second Alliance's master dared to ride on his head. It seemed that if he didn't show his might, he would be treated like a sick cat. Well, I don't know who can afford to use me. The master of the Ning family was also curious, and his subordinates, who were hiding in the dark, began to sweat after hearing their master's words. Although they really wanted to rush out and teach these blind guys a lesson, the master didn't give them any eye. Therefore, they could only bide their time. Sob. It's not easy to be someone else's subordinate. What are you not satisfied with? It's better to be a slave than to be the exclusive property of this disgusting woman. Fengde said speechlessly. He couldn't understand why a certain woman or female beast in the divine realm liked to treat others as their exclusive property so much. Could it be that this was a custom of the divine realm? No. He had to take good care of Lu Tao and not let her contract this illness. That's right. Don't make us your exclusive property, I'd rather be your slave. Cheng Wu begged with a bitter face. Who said anything about you? You're so ugly, how can you be my exclusive property? Do I have such bad taste? The woman shouted angrily. Ah. That's good. Cheng Wu said hurriedly. However, he was a little depressed in his heart. Was he an ugly person? Although he knew that he could not be compared to Leader Yi and the others, but it was not to the extent of being called an ugly monster, right? Visit myb0x.novel.com to read, please. When Feng De and the others heard the woman's words, they couldn't help but burst into laughter. After comparing Cheng Wu's appearance, they were relieved. This was because based on this woman's judgment, they were probably also made to be sold as slaves. What are you laughing at? You'll be crying later. The woman shouted in dissatisfaction when she saw them laughing so loudly. I'm sorry, but that's what I wanted to say to you. Leng Ruoxue chuckled and pointed at the man in black on the ground. The woman looked in the direction that Leng Ruoxue was pointing at and discovered in disbelief that all her subordinates were dead. She rubbed her eyes, not willing to believe what she had just seen. No. This couldn't be true. Thinking of this, she quickly ran to her subordinate's side. She had no choice but to believe that they were really dead. How dare you kill the people of our Ascender Alliance? We will never let you go. After the woman said that, she teleported away in a panic. Chapter 1275, The Reason, 1, It's such a pity that the woman managed to escape. The Qi clan genius said regretfully when he saw the woman using teleportation to escape. What are you afraid of? The monk can run but the temple can, she's the daughter of the Ascender Alliance's master. Are you afraid you can't find her? Feng De reminded him with a smile. Ah. The Qi clan genius was a little depressed. How could he not know this? In fact, he wanted to capture that woman and use her to threaten the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance. However, now that she had run away, if he went to the Second Alliance's territory to capture her, he was afraid that it would cause a greater conflict with the Ascender Alliance. At that time, things would get out of hand. So what if he ran? Let's go back to the inn first. Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. To her, that woman didn't mean anything. The matter between Lan Ming and his disciple was the most urgent matter. They had to get to the bottom of this immediately. Yes. Everyone nodded and returned to the inn together. When he arrived at the inn, the genius from the Qi family thought that Leng Ruoxue and the rest would at least invite him in out of courtesy. But who knew that the other party didn't even mention this at all and directly told him to go back home. This couldn't help but make him feel a little depressed in his heart, but there was nothing he could do. In the living room, Leng Ruoxue, the demon, Wu, Lan Ming, and Yulin sat on their respective chairs. However, no one spoke first. After a while, Leng Ruoxue opened her mouth and said indifferently, "Don't you and your master want to tell me what's going on?" In fact, it was easy for her to find out the truth. She just had to read their minds. However, in her eyes, Lan Ming and Yulin were her friends and she would never read their minds. However, desperate times called for desperate measures. If they insisted on not telling her, she had no choice but to do this. I'm really ashamed. Yulin said with a depressed look. Take off your clothes, Leng Ruoxue suddenly said. Shua. The demon glared at Leng Ruoxue with a hint of displeasure. It was obvious that he was dissatisfied with her for allowing another man to undress. Upon hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, large beads of sweat kept rolling down her forehead. She couldn't help but think to herself, this girl is really too unexpected. However, it was a good thing that she had Lan Ming and Yulin undress in front of them. Otherwise, it would have caused a misunderstanding. Even though he did not know why Leng Ruoxue was doing this, he had absolute trust in her. He believed that Shue had her reasons for doing this. Hence, he would not be like a certain man who would make wild guesses and get jealous. I don't want to. Yulin clutched his collar tightly, clearly not wanting to take it off. Leng Ruoxue was speechless when she saw Yulin's expression as if he was about to be raped. In the end, she couldn't take it anymore and roared, do you want to undress yourselves, or do you want me to get someone to help you? Visit MYB0X Novel.com to read, please. Little Schwa, don't force us. Yulin put on a long face and said with an aggrieved expression, sob. They can't take off their clothes. You're not taking off your clothes, are you? Fengde, you guys come in. Leng Ruoxue shouted towards the outside of the hall. She had no intention of playing hide-and-seek with this awkward pair of master and disciple. Miss, we're here. He had been waiting outside to eavesdrop on Fengde and the others. When he heard his lattice call, he immediately walked in from outside the hall. Take off their clothes. Leng Ruoxue ordered. Yes. Fengde and the others quickly replied, hee hee. This was the first time they had stripped a man of his clothes. Then, Fengde and the others walked in front of Yulin and Lan Ming with covetous eyes and said with an apologetic expression, I'm sorry. This is Miss Order, we have no choice but to obey. Don, T. I don't want to take off my clothes. Yulin said loudly, his hand gripping his clothes even tighter. Yulin. Don't be like this. What's the big deal about taking off your clothes and showing us? We're all men, and you're shy. We have what you have. Fengde comforted her with a smile. To be honest, he was not willing to undress a man, but this was an order from the miss. No. I don't want to. You can't do this. Yulin was so anxious that she was about to cry as she said with tears in her eyes. Fengde. What are you waiting for? Just do it. Leng Ruoxue said impatiently. Schwa. The demon pouted, his eyes filled with dissatisfaction. Be good. I naturally have my own intentions. Leng Ruoxue consoled. Oh. The demon responded softly, his eyes clearly saying, you have to compensate me. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue could only nod her head helplessly. Only then would the evildoer be satisfied and let her do whatever she wanted. On the other side, Fengde and the others had already started to take off Yulin and Lan Ming's clothes. No matter how hard their masters tried to resist, they were ignored. At this time, the master of the Ning family, the great elder, and the others were waiting outside the hall. When they heard the ghostly wails and wolf howls coming from the living room, the gossiping genes in their hearts were completely aroused. They were really too curious, not knowing what the situation was inside right now. Was this a pack of wolves bullying the poor little Red Riding Hood? I really want to rush in and take a look. However, the master of the Ning family and the others were also afraid that the two little slaves would be embarrassed. After all, according to Ling Qingtian, they knew each other and were friends from Haotian continent. So, they could only bear with it. No matter how much Yulin and Lan Ming resisted, in the end, they couldn't resist the power of the crowd. Their clothes were quickly stripped off, and at this time, they were only wearing a pair of shorts. However, after stripping them of their clothes, Fengde and the others were all stunned. It wasn't because the master and disciples' figures were too good, but because their bodies were covered in wounds. It could be considered that there was no intact skin on their bodies. Although the wounds in many places had almost recovered, there were still many new wounds that had not healed. It was absolutely shocking to look at. Miss. This, Fengde turned around and looked at Leng Ruoxue hesitantly. He didn't know what to say. What's wrong? Leng Ruoxue was puzzled. At this moment, Yulin and Lan Ming were surrounded by Fengde and the others, so she wasn't sure what they had seen. Miss, there are many wounds on their bodies, and many of them are new. It looks like they were caused in the past 2 days. Fengde explained. Chapter 1276, The Reason, 2, You guys move aside, let me see. Leng Ruoxue suppressed her anger and said. When she saw Yulin and Lan Ming's faces were intact, she was a little puzzled. Logically speaking, since they had become slaves, it was impossible for them to not resist at all and obediently allow themselves to be sold. However, their faces were still as handsome as ever. Therefore, she couldn't help but be suspicious. That was why she thought of asking them to take off their clothes to confirm her guess. Yes. Fengde and the others replied. After that, they made way for the Miss and Regiment Commander Yi to see clearly. Len Ruoxue squinted her beautiful eyes and swept them over Lan Ming and his disciple. The more she looked, the angrier she became. After a while, she turned her beautiful eyes back to the master and disciple and said indifferently, "Now, you can slowly tell me what is going on. We ascended to the divine realm half a year ago. When we heard about the Ascender Alliance, we immediately went there. However, we didn't expect that we, master and disciple, would be fancied by the mother and daughter of the two alliances. Master and I were naturally unwilling, so that tigress sent people to capture us and torture us in all ways. When she saw that we were still unwilling, she turned us into slaves and planned to buy us back," Lan Ming explained simply. "Continue," Len Ruoxue replied calmly. "We were brought to the auction, and then we met you." Lan Ming said. "Where are the new injuries on your bodies? Did that woman do it?" Len Ruoxue asked indifferently, her body exuding a cold aura. "Yes." Lan Ming nodded. "Is the Quest Guild in cahoots with the Ascender Alliance?" Len Ruoxue asked again. It can't be considered a collusion. The Quest Guilds only recognize money and not people. As long as you give them enough money, they will help you do anything." At this time, Wu suppressed her anger and said. "Including murder, arson, and robbery?" Len Ruoxue asked curiously. "Yes, as long as you can afford it." Wu nodded. "Then this guild really doesn't have any principles." He actually accepted everything. Furthermore, he was even acknowledged by the divine realm. Len Ruoxue was extremely surprised. Organizations like this could be found on any continent. However, they were all dark organizations that could not be exposed to the light. It was rare to see one as brazen as the Mission Guild. The Missions Guild is under the jurisdiction of the Divine Master's residence, so there's nothing in this world that they don't dare to do. Otherwise, how could a mere mission eunuch work together with the other major guilds? Wu explained. The Divine Master's estate. His backing is really strong. Len Ruoxue laughed evilly. She didn't care who was backing her up after bullying her friend. Therefore, she didn't plan on letting go of this mission, be it the Guild or the Ascender Alliance. Visit MYB0X Novel.com to read, please. Yes, it is indeed very big. Wu said gloomily, AI. The Ascender Alliance was still fine. After all, with the Ning family master on their side, even the Ascender General Alliance couldn't do anything to them. However, once it involved the Mission Guild, it was a bit difficult to deal with. Unless they ignored the role of the Mission Guild in this, otherwise, they couldn't do anything to the Mission Guild, AI. Who asked him to have such a strong backing? However, it's useless no matter how powerful the background of the Quest Guild is. As the accomplice of the Ascender Alliance's two masters, we naturally can't let him off. Len Ruoxue laughed coldly. Don't let them off. Don't be afraid, I'll support you if anything happens. The demon said with a smile. Yes, I have you. Of course I'm not afraid. Len Ruoxue said cooperatively. Let's forget it. Don't make such a powerful enemy for our sake, aren't we fine now? After being on the godly continent for half a year, he was well aware of the strength of the Ascender Alliance and the Mission Guild. Since Len Ruoxue had saved them, it was equivalent to provoking the Ascender Alliance. Therefore, the most important thing now was to leave this place. As long as they were not found by the Ascender Alliance, they would be safe. After all, the godly continent was not small, and it was not easy to find them. It's too late. We've already provoked them. Besides, Xiao Lan, you should know my temper. Since we've provoked an enemy, we naturally have to take the initiative to attack. It's not my character to be beaten up passively. Len Ruoxue said calmly. She did not care about the Ascender Alliance, but the Quest Guild. She wouldn't move yet, but it was inevitable that she would ask for some compensation. Shua is right, we should take the initiative to attack the enemy and surprise them, hee. Let's go to the Ascender Alliance tomorrow. At this time, the Ning family's master and the others, who were blatantly eavesdropping on their conversation, no longer sneaked in, but strode straight in. After Lan Ming and Yulin saw them, they quickly picked up their clothes from the ground in embarrassment and covered half of their bodies, their faces completely red. What are you blocking? Don't block it, it's not like we haven't seen it before. The master of the Ning family mimicked Feng Da's tone and teased. That's right, we have what you have. First elder also cooperated. Ah. Lan Ming and Yulin looked at each other and were both depressed. No wonder these people could hang out with Shua. They were all people who wished for the world to be in chaos. Moreover, the tone of their words was exactly the same. Sigh. Forget it, anyway, they had already lost all their face, so it didn't matter if they waited a little longer. After thinking it through, the master and disciple pair put on their clothes in front of everyone. Leng Ruoxue then gave each of them a pill. Almost instantly, the injuries on their bodies were all healed. Even the scars from their old injuries had disappeared. Feeling that their bodies had recovered to their original state, the two of them were so excited that they almost burst into tears. Little Shua, we master and disciple will follow you from now on. Yulin's eyes were filled with tears as he said pitifully. You two idiots. Since you've come to the divine world, why didn't you come to find us earlier? Why did you go to the Ascender Alliance? Do you really think that place is a good place? Wu looked at Yulin and Lan Ming, his face full of disappointment. The divine mainland is so big, we need a place to look. Furthermore, we don't dare to reveal that we're Ascenders. Yulin said in an extremely aggrieved manner. Chapter 1277, The Reason, 3, When they had first arrived at the divine mainland, they were clueless. Hence, they were often hunted down because of their identities. Later on, they became more cautious, and their days became slightly better. Furthermore, they had also inquired about Leng Ruoxue and the others, but they had found nothing. Later on, they heard that the Ascender Alliance had specially taken in Ascenders, so they went there. Who knew that their true disaster would begin when they reached there? They had even become slaves. Hee. It's fine for young people to suffer a little, but now that you've met my goddaughter, you've finally come back to life. The master of the Ning family tried to smooth things over. As a person from the divine world, no one knew the cruelty of the divine world better than he did. Therefore, he sympathized with the encounter of these two young people, but this was also because they were friends of his goddaughter. If they were strangers, he naturally would not have so much sympathy. After all, there were many people in the divine world who had a hard time. It was impossible to sympathize with them all. Yes. Yulin hurriedly nodded. It was great to be able to meet someone he knew in the immortal realm. Yulin, Lan Ming, you two go and rest first. Leng Ruoxue said softly. She knew that during this period of time, this master and disciple pair's days would not be easy. Naturally, they would not be able to have a good rest. Yes. The two of them nodded. Then, Fengde took them to their residence and arranged rooms for them before returning to the living room. Miss, are we going to the Ascender Alliance tomorrow? After returning to the living room, Fengde couldn't help but ask. Go. He had to go. However, we have to get that genius from the Qi family to join us. We still have to make a trip to the Missions Guild first. The master of the Ning family said, as if he wished for the world to be in chaos. And, then he'll send someone to contact that Qi family genius in a while. However, he may not necessarily go to the Ascender Alliance with us. Leng Ruoxue said. As a disciple of the Qi clan, she had more things to worry about than them. Therefore, the Qi clan's genius was probably not willing to provoke the Ascender Alliance. Can he not go? The Ascender Alliance's people were all killed by his men. Could it be that the Alliance Master of the Ascender Alliance will let him off? The master of the Ning family laughed evilly. Hee hee. If he doesn't go, well, just wait here for the second alliance's master to come. The great elder suggested. The woman had suffered such a great loss. After returning to the Ascender Alliance, she was bound to complain to her mother. It seemed unlikely that the second alliance's master would swallow his anger. Therefore, he felt that they should just wait for the rabbit. Why would they waste their manpower and money to go to the second alliance? Well, talk about it if he doesn't go. If he comes with us, well, destroy the base of the Ascender Alliance and sell the mother and daughter as slaves. Leng Ruoxue replied without any emotion. Since they dared to sell her friend, then she would let the mother and daughter have a taste of being slaves. Who asked her to always pursue a taste of their own medicine? Ha ha ha. Miss, this is a good idea. Let them be slaves and never have freedom for the rest of their lives. Feng De and the others agreed with a smirk. Girl, although it's worse than death to let them be slaves, I think it's better to kill them directly. Otherwise, if they're alive and saved by others, I'm afraid we'll be in trouble in the future. The first elder said worriedly. If it was really as Shui had said, then the Ascender Alliance of the Divine Realm would definitely not sit by and do nothing. It was not because of the importance of the mother and daughter, but because the Ascender Alliance could not afford to lose face. Moreover, this would easily deepen the hatred with the Ascender Alliance. Although with them around, the Ascender Alliance would not dare to do anything to Shui and the others, but as long as he thought of their enemy, he felt that it was not wise to form an enmity with the Ascender Alliance. Are you worried about the one in the General Alliance? Don't worry, he won't care about such a small matter. Moreover, how do you know that he doesn't want to clear out some of the Ascender Alliance's insects? The master of the Ning family said confidently. He had some friendship with the old man, so he was very sure that the old man would not fall out with him over such a small matter. However, the great elder's concerns were not wrong. After all, the current situation was not clear, so it was better to be careful. However, since this was his good daughter's suggestion, he naturally had no reason to disagree. Visit MYB0X Novel, com to read, please. You're right, I'm thinking too much. Seeing that the master of the Ning family was so confident, the great elder did not object anymore. Looks like you'll have to think of a way where no one would dare to save them. Leng Ruoxue frowned as she pondered. Hee hee. Young miss, this is easy, just give them some medicine and let them live for the time being. When they have suffered enough, then let them die. Feng De said with a smirk. That's reasonable. Leng Ruoxue's forehead was full of black lines. Feng De's idea was so ruthless. However, she liked it. When the master of the Ning family, the great elder, and the others heard Feng De's words, they couldn't help wiping the sweat from their foreheads and secretly sighing to themselves. Fortunately, they were not their enemies. Otherwise, they would have been angered to death. After deciding on the fate of the two Ascender Alliance's alliance master and daughter, Leng Ruoxue sent people to look for the Qi family's geniuses. Just as she had expected, the Qi clan's genius had rejected her. Furthermore, the excuse he had given was that she was about to return to the Divine Realm and would not have the time to go to the Ascender Alliance with them. After receiving such an answer, Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but sneer in her heart. She secretly decided to do as the first elder had said and wait for them here. Humph. It was impossible for the Qi family genius to stay out of it. The next day, Leng Ruoxue and the rest made another trip to the Quest Guild located in Ying City. They were stopped by a waiter as soon as they entered the door of the guild. The waiter looked at them with a smile and asked politely, "Is there anything you need to entrust? Our Guild of Missions offers fair prices. Furthermore, no matter what you're entrusting us with, we have the ability to accomplish it." Anything? Leng Ruoxue lifted her beautiful eyes and asked with a faint smile. Of course, but you have to be able to afford it. The waiter said. Money is not a problem. However, I would like to meet your president. I have some requests that I need to discuss with him personally. Leng Ruoxue requested. According to what she knew, the president of this mission association was an accomplice in colluding with the Ascender Alliance's leaders. However, what she couldn't understand was why the Ascender Alliance's leaders would come to Ing City to entrust this matter to them. One must know that quest guilds were spread throughout the entire divine realm. If she was afraid of being discovered for her ugly acts, she could have just found a quest guild in a small city. Why did she have to come to Ing City? In our guild, only rank commissions are qualified to meet the guild leader in person. I handle all other commissions. The waiter asked. In other words, he wanted to know what Leng Ruoxue and the rest had entrusted to him. However, Leng Ruoxue would naturally not tell a mere waiter. Although I don't know if the thing I'm going to commission can reach your so-called a class, I can pay a class money. Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. All right then. The waiter was helpless. After asking them to wait for a moment, he personally went to ask the president. Not long after, the waiter returned and brought Leng Ruoxue and the others to the president's office upstairs. After entering, Leng Ruoxue and the rest noticed that the guild master of the guild for missions looked to be in his 50s. He was slightly chubby and was bald. This surprised them greatly. It should be known that it was impossible for a cultivator to have such a situation. However, there was a living example in front of them. This made them sigh. Cultivators also had troubles. After they were invited to take a seat, the president of the missions guild looked at Leng Ruoxue and the others. After sizing them up, he said, I wonder what you want to entrust me with. He had heard from the waiter that they could pay for an rank commission. This had piqued his curiosity. After all, rank commissions were extremely rare these days. Hence, it was extremely rare to encounter an rank commission. If he could handle the matter well and satisfy the client, he would also be able to reap great benefits. Therefore, after hearing the waiter's words, he immediately took it seriously. And now, he naturally did not know that this was the beginning of his difficult days. Just as the guild master of the missions guild was sizing them up, Leng Ruoxue had already instructed Green Vessel to read his mind. Naturally, she knew what he was thinking, and she would definitely fulfill his wish. President, what's your name? Leng Ruoxue chuckled as she asked. My surname is Zeng Yen. How should I address you, miss? Zeng Yen asked. I thought you guys don't know how to ask for the name of the client. President Zeng, you're breaking the rules. Leng Ruoxue reminded him with an evil smile. I've been impolite, please don't blame me, miss. Zeng Yen said quickly. However, he was a little unhappy in his heart. Although the mission guild had this rule, it had been in vain for many years. Once they asked for each other's names, no one would not tell them. Therefore, he had asked casually. It's fine. I'm here to cooperate with President Zeng, so I naturally won't blame you for your rudeness. Leng Ruoxue said magnanimously. However, her words did not sound right to Zeng Yan's ears. In that case, miss, please tell me what you want to entrust me with. Zeng Yan suppressed his anger and said, If it wasn't for the reward, he wouldn't have been so humble. Alright, it's like this. I bought a few slaves yesterday, and I wish to release them from their restraints. I wonder if President Zeng can do it. Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. She knew that there were restrictions placed on the slaves, and those restrictions were specially made by the city lord's manor. Unless the master agreed, no one would be able to break it. She had also asked her godfather and the great elder about this matter, but they couldn't do anything about it. Therefore, she could only look for the president. Of course, this was only one of the things she had to do. Miss wants to untie her slave. Why? No master would do that. Slaves are the private property of the master. Zeng Yan asked curiously. He couldn't understand how such a silly woman could exist. Although slaves were not expensive, they were bought with money. If their restrictions were removed, it meant that the master would lose his ownership of them. I am very confident in myself. I believe that even without that restrictive spell, they will still be loyal to me. In that case, Why don't I make them owe me a favor? Leng Ruoxue chuckled as she explained. Chapter 1278, Busy Guild Quest, 1, Miss Words Are Reasonable. Since that's the case, I will help you settle this matter. As for the price, Zheng Yan stopped speaking halfway. He looked at Leng Ruoxue with anticipation, waiting for her to continue. President Zheng, this is only one of the things I have to do. You can't possibly think that I'll pay the reward for an rank mission for such a small matter, right? Leng Ruoxue said with a smile that was not a smile. Her beautiful face was filled with mockery. I'll let you be happy for a while, then you'll cry later. Hee hee. Miss has misunderstood my meaning. I mean, what else do you need my help with? Zheng Yan quickly changed his words. President Zheng, this is just the first mission that I'm asking your mission guild to do for me. When this matter is completed, I'll tell you what the next mission is. I'll pay the deposit first according to the rules of your mission guild. When the matter is over, I'll pay you the remaining amount. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. After she finished speaking, she took out 2 top-grade fire attribute crystals from her bracelet. She knew that these top-grade fire attribute crystals were very rare and their value was far higher than other top-grade crystals. This was not because there was anything special about these top-grade fire attribute crystals, but because there were too many fire attribute cultivators in the divine world. Therefore, these top-grade fire attribute crystals were the most popular crystals. She had deliberately taken out these 2 top-grade fire attribute crystals to lure Zheng Yan into the trap, because Zheng Yan was a fire attribute cultivator. Just as Leng Ruoxue had expected, the moment Zheng Yan saw the 2 top-grade fire attribute crystals, his eyes were fixed on them. His eyes immediately shot out a fiery glow, and he couldn't wait to immediately claim the 2 fire attribute crystals as his own. One must know that the exchange rate of fire attribute crystals had always been slightly higher than the crystals of other attributes. Hence, it would be strange if he wasn't envious. That dense fire attribute was so alluring. He couldn't help but take a deep breath, and the thick breath of the fire attribute seemed to drift around his nose. Miss, is your balance also paid with this top-quality fire attribute crystal? Zheng Yan suppressed the excitement in his heart and asked calmly. However, only he knew that he was definitely not calm. Of course, I only have fire attribute crystals. After all, I'm also a fire attribute cultivator. If President Zheng wants me to pay with other attribute crystals, I can't afford it. However, if President Zheng doesn't like fire attribute crystals, I can exchange them for the attribute you like. Leng Ruoxue laughed. No need. No need. This will do, there's no need to go through so much trouble. Zheng Yan quickly said after hearing this. If that's the case, I wonder when President Zheng will be able to fulfill my request. I'm in a hurry. Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. It will be done in 2 days. I will personally send someone to deliver it to you. Zheng Yan said with a smile. That's too long, can you hurry up? Maybe I'll leave this place tomorrow. Leng Ruoxue furrowed her brows and said with a troubled expression. I see. I'll try. Zheng Yan looked a little embarrassed, but he didn't want to let go of this big fish. It should be known that it was a top-grade fire attribute crystal. If he could complete this young lad's task, he would definitely be able to make a big profit. He couldn't help but think to himself. Visit myb0x.novel.com to read, please. Then I'll have to trouble you, President Zheng. I'll be waiting for your good news. Leng Ruoxue said, satisfied. After telling Zheng Yan where they were staying, the group returned to the inn. The next day, Zheng Yan sent someone to deliver the method of removing the restrictions. After Leng Ruoxue received it, she immediately removed the restrictions on Lan Ming and Yulin. At the same time, she handed a letter to the person and asked him to pass it to Zheng Yan. Needless to say, the letter contained what she would need Zheng Yan to do next. After the person left, Feng De looked at Leng Ruoxue curiously and asked, Young miss, did you say that you would betray the alliance head of the Second Ascender Alliance? I'm not asking him to betray the Second Alliance's master. I only asked him to help us investigate the glorious deeds of the Second Alliance's leader, and this is also part of my mission. If he doesn't do as I say, he can forget about getting the rest of the crystals. In Zheng Yan's eyes, which is more important, the crystals or the woman? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. Of course it's the crystal stones that are important. Yesterday, when he saw the 2 top-grade fire attribute crystal stones, his eyes were green with envy. Feng De laughed. Don't worry, he'll obediently send me the information about the Second Alliance's master. Don't forget, the Mission Guild only recognizes money, not people. Leng Ruoxue said with absolute certainty. This was only a part of her plan, so it would be hard for Zheng Yan not to fall for it. Hee hee. Next, well, let them have a dog-eat-dog fight. Feng De laughed evilly. He loved doing bad things. Yes. However, they have a very deep friendship, so we can't rush this. We can only do it step by step. Leng Ruoxue continued. Don't worry, miss. After this, I thought of many missions for their guild to do, but they had no choice but to do them. Feng De laughed evilly. Alright, when the Mission Guild sends the information on the Second Alliance's leader, it'll leave the rest to you. It'll just pay for it. Leng Ruoxue had made up her mind to be a hands-off shopkeeper because she was very confident in her subordinates. With them around, she had once said that they would definitely play with half her life. Hee hee. Miss, don't worry. Leave this matter to us and we'll be absolutely safe. Feng De patted his chest and promised. Well, then I won't show up for the next few days. Leng Ruoxue nodded. With that, she pulled the demon back to her bracelet to cultivate. The next day. Sure enough, the Mission Guild had sent over the information on the ascendance of the 2 alliances. The information was extremely detailed, and it seemed that they had already known about it. In order to get those top-grade crystals as soon as possible, they had even included the number of men the 2 alliances' ascendants had. Of course, he was not included in the information. Looking at the information, Feng De's lips slowly curled up. He was obviously very satisfied with the information. However, what made him speechless was that the alliance master of the Second Alliance was too powerful. He had no idea how many men she had taken over the years, and some of her methods were extremely vile. Chapter 1279, Busy Guild Quest, 2. According to the records, the leader of the Second Alliance had once taken a fancy to a married man. In order to win him over, she had plotted an accident for his wife. Not only did she use the accident to threaten his wife, but she also had a legitimate reason to have the man, causing his family to be destroyed. Of course, this was only one of her great achievements. In the experience of the leader of the Second Alliance, there were too many things like this to count. Seeing Feng De quickly browse through the information he had brought without saying a word, the waiter sent by the Mission Guild couldn't help but be anxious. One must know that he had been ordered to come here. In addition to handing over the task that the guest had asked them to do, another important thing was to collect the remaining crystals. Before he came, the president had repeatedly told him to bring the remaining crystals back. But now, looking at the other party, it seemed that he had no intention of paying. What should he do? The waiter was in a dilemma. Are you satisfied with the efficiency of our guild? The waiter asked in a reserved manner. I'm satisfied. We're very satisfied, otherwise, we wouldn't have paid you so much. However, we're not done with what we have to do, so you have to continue to work hard. Feng De said with a smile, his attitude very friendly. There are more. The waiter was very depressed and couldn't help but think to himself, oh. It looks like they don't intend to pay. How are we going to explain this to the president when we go back? Of course, you can't possibly think that you can get the money for an rank mission with such a simple mission, right? I really don't know if I'm the one who's stupid or if you guys are. Feng De said with a mocking expression. Ah. That's not what I meant. May I know what kind of mission you're entrusting me with next? The waiter asked with a smile. My lattice pet went missing yesterday. Please help her find it. Feng De said directly. Arg. Pet. What pet? Why would I lose it? The waiter was puzzled, because he didn't know what the man in front of him meant by pet. Logically speaking, beasts should have signed a contract with their masters, so it was unlikely that they would lose them. My family's young pet is a fox. Because it was jealous of a woman, it ran away from home in a fit of anger. So, I'll have to trouble you to help me find it. We definitely want mistreat your mission guild. If you accept our mission, your mission guild's performance will definitely be the best among all the mission guilds. Feng Da's face was full of certainty and anticipation. Alright, please tell us what the fox looks like and where it might go. Well, send people to look for him. The waiter said helplessly, sigh. It seemed that it would not be easy to earn their money. And, this is the information on that fox. You must remember that fox has a bad temper, so you must go along with it and think of a way to coax it back. If it loses even a single hair, not only will you not get the remaining crystals, you will also have to compensate us for our losses. Feng Da warned. Don't worry, we understand. The waiter said hurriedly. At this moment, he was even more certain that their money was not easy to earn. Thinking of this, he turned around and left with the information Feng Da gave him. After the waiter left, a snow-white little fox walked out of the inner room with an unhappy expression. Who said I have a bad temper? Shuang said gloomily, woo. This detestable Feng Da, not only did he wanted to play the role of Len Ruoxia's beloved pet that went missing because of jealousy, he even slandered it. He's really too much. Visit myb0x.novel.com to read, please. Hee hee. How could you have a bad temper? That was for outsiders to hear. I'm afraid they'll be too rough to you, so I'm giving you a heads up. Feng Da said with a smile. Humph. Anyway, don't slander me. Shuang said with wide eyes. Alright. Then, as the missing pet, when do you plan to let them find you? Feng Da asked with a smile, which meant, when do you plan to leave the inn? What's the hurry? Let them look for a few days first, money is not that easy to earn. Shui Ying's face was filled with disapproval. 3 days later. Only then did Shuang quietly leave Bamboo City and head to the places they might be looking for. After another 2 days, Snow Shadow was finally found by the people from the Quest Guild. After finding Snow Shadow, they immediately sent this little devil back to the inn. Feng Da looked at the scratch marks on the waiter's face and laughed in his heart. It looked like Snow Shadow had made them suffer quite a bit. Look at all of them, there's no one on their bodies or faces that isn't injured. Very good. Shuang had been with them for a long time, and he was becoming more and more like them. What's wrong with you guys? Was he beaten up by a crowd? Feng Da asked, pretending to be confused. No. I accidentally fell. The waiter's face was gloomy. He really couldn't say it. They were all played by this cute little fox. Woo. It was too embarrassing. There were so many of them, but they couldn't even handle a little fox. Then you guys were too careless. Feng Da said with a look of sympathy, but he was already laughing in his heart. He looked at Shuang, who was squatting on top of the waiter's head, and was clearly very satisfied with his masterpiece. Shui Ying's tail kept wagging on the waiter's face, making the waiter dizzy. Not only that, but he also felt like sneezing. However, just as he could not control himself, Shuang jumped away from the top of his head to avoid being affected by the man's saliva. When Feng Da and the others saw Shui Ying's actions, they also took a few steps back in tacit understanding. As a result, the waiter's saliva all landed on the companions closest to him. You! The waiter's companions were a little angry. Damn it, their reactions were too slow, so they suffered directly. I didn't do it on purpose, the waiter said gloomily. It was all that damn fox's fault. Why did he sweep his face with his tail for no reason? He couldn't help but want to sneeze. Yes, he didn't do it on purpose, so don't blame him. We're very satisfied that he was able to find my lattice pet. However, We still have other tasks for you to complete, so we can't pay you the rest of the money now. Fengde said with a smile on his face. As soon as he said this, the waiter and the others from the Mission Guild almost fainted. Chapter 1280, Busy Guild Quest, 3, Fuck. Are they done yet? Although these missions were not big, they came one after another. When would they end? Why was it so difficult to earn their money? The waiter and the others couldn't help but complain in their hearts, but they still had to put on a happy expression. I wonder what other requests you have? The waiter asked with a forced smile. This is a part of what we have to do. After you've done this, I'll give you the rest. Fengde handed over a thick stack of paper. The waiter took it and almost fainted after taking a look at it. The paper was full of tasks, and the stack of paper was an inch thick. Moreover, this was not the end, because the waiter had said that he would assign other tasks after these things were done. Fuck. Did these people treat them as their servants? He had been in the Guild of Missions for many years, but he had never seen such a troublesome client. They really went too far. They didn't show their might. Did they think that the Quest Guild was a pushover? The waiter cursed in his heart. However, he only dared to curse in his heart. He didn't have the guts to offend the client. Moreover, the president attached great importance to the client. If there's nothing else, you can leave now. Then, Fengde asked the waiter to leave. The waiter and the others had to swallow their anger and leave the inn. After the waiter and the others left, Shuang looked at Fengde and said with a smirk, "You guys are really bad. You actually thought of so many missions for them to do. Hee hee. Both of them. Both of them. You're not bad either. It actually caused those people to be covered in injuries." Fengde laughed. Those are just superficial wounds. They'll be fine after eating a pill. The reason why they came back with injuries was just to show their president. They're all smart people. Shuang said with a look of disdain. However, you've given them so many missions, will they complete them honestly? Wouldn't it take a long time to finish all this? Shuang asked with a puzzled expression. It's up to them whether they want to do it or not. If they don't do it, they won't be able to get the rest of the crystals. The young Miss bait has already been set, and that President Zheng has no choice but to take the bait. And once they fail to complete our commission, we'll have a reason to rob them. Fengde chuckled. He was in a very good mood. Yeah, you're right. Snow Shadow nodded. In the next few days, the Mission Guild was as Fengde had expected. They were busy with the missions he assigned. Although the missions he gave were not very big, there were a lot of them, and they were very complicated. However, for the sake of those top-quality fire attribute crystals, they had to send people to complete those missions. This had also diverted the attention of the Mission Guild. Therefore, the arrival of the Ascender Alliance's 2 alliance masters did not attract Xing Yan's attention. In an unremarkable inn in Ing City. In the room. Visit MYB0X Novel, calm to read, please. A beautiful woman who looked to be in her 30s was lazily lying on a deck chair. Beside her were 2 handsome men who were serving her. This man was the leader of the Ascender Alliance. Mother. When are we going to settle the score with them? Suddenly, the door was pushed open and a young woman ran in. What's the hurry? We have to understand the opponent's situation. If we go rashly, what if we suffer a loss? The woman who was addressed as mother frowned slightly and spoke indifferently. She had said that her only daughter was impetuous before. However, she had said it many times but she was still unrepentant. Now, she was too lazy to say it again. Mother. Don't let them go, some of them are the kind of pretty boys mother likes. When the time comes, we must torture them with all our might to avenge the deaths of our 2 alliances. The young woman said fiercely. You don't need to say this, mother knows it in her heart. These few days, you'd better stay in the inn and not run around, do you hear me? The leader of the Second Alliance warned. Yes. Yes, the young woman replied obediently. However, she was a little dissatisfied in her heart. Ever since she had escaped back to the Second Alliance, her mother had been much stricter with her, causing her to be unable to run around like she used to. If there's nothing else, you can go back to your room. I'll send someone to keep an eye on you. The leader of the Second Alliance said. Yes. Although the young woman was very unwilling, she did not dare to disobey her mother's words. After all, her mother was her biggest backer. The young lady then returned to her room, while the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance sighed as he watched his only daughter's back. Alliance Master, the young miss is still young. When she is older, she will naturally understand. A man beside him advised. I hope so. However, with that personality of hers, it's really easy for her to cause trouble. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance was depressed. At this moment, there was a knock on the door, and a man quickly went to open it. Alliance Master, I'm back. A middle-aged man walked in from the outside and bowed respectfully. How is it? What did Xin Yan say? The leader of the Second Alliance asked. Alliance Master, I didn't see President Zheng. Not only that, I didn't see anyone from the Missions Guild. The main door of the Missions Guild was locked. The middle-aged man replied. How is this possible? The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance narrowed his eyes and said in disbelief. He had once said that it was impossible for him to leave his own lair. This was too unbelievable. Alliance Master, I've asked around. It seems that the Mission Guild has accepted a mission, so all of their people have gone to run that mission. The middle-aged man said gloomily. What kind of mission could make them come out in full force? I'm really curious. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance said indifferently. I didn't manage to find out, but I did manage to find out the true identity of the person who killed our two alliances. The middle-aged man said. Is that person really from the Qi clan? The leader of the Second Alliance asked. Yes, and he's a direct descendant of the Qi clan, from the Divine Realm. The middle-aged man said. However, what he did not know was that Lin Ruoxue had intentionally sent someone to leak this information. Her motive was to drag the Qi clan's genius down with her. Chapter 1281, The Busy Guild, 4, What do you two think? The leader of the Second Alliance turned around and looked at his two husbands. Alliance head, so what if he's a direct descendant of the Qi family? Can a direct descendant of the Qi family kill someone from the Ascender Alliance? If we treat this matter as non-existent just because he's a direct descendant of the Qi family, how are we going to face the Ascender Alliance in the future if word of this gets out? If Yuan Biao were to know about this, wouldn't he make us laugh to death? A man said with a faint smile. Alliance Master, Brother Ran is right. We can't just let this matter go, otherwise, how will you convince the public in the future? Our two alliances can't be laughed at. The other man said. You mean you want me to find that Qi family direct descendant to settle the score? The leader of the Second Alliance asked uncertainly. Alliance Master, we're only giving you a suggestion. You're the one who decides what to do. However, if we don't pursue this matter because of the other party's identity, I'm afraid the prestige of our Second Alliance will be lost in the future. The man's face was filled with worry. What he said was exactly what the Second Alliance Master wanted. Because she was indeed worried that this would happen, she was very conflicted at this moment. If we kill that Qi clan's direct descendant, wouldn't we become enemies with the Qi clan? The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance asked indifferently. Alliance head, who said we're going to kill him? We only need to kill his subordinates. We still have to give face to Qi clan. The man called Little Brother Ran quickly said. You're saying that we'll only kill his subordinates? The eyes of the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance lit up as she thought to herself, this is a good way to get the best of both worlds. This way, we won't have to form too deep a hatred with the Qi clan. After all, we have to regain the face of the Ascender Alliance. She believed that the Qi clan would understand if they did this. And, we only want the life of that subordinate of the Qi clan. As for his life, if we really take it, the Qi clan will not let this matter rest. Brother Ran nodded and looked up at the other man. The two of them communicated silently with their eyes. That's a good idea. It's settled then. Well, go to the Chi family tonight to ask for her. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance said. After the decision was made, the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance began to instruct his subordinates to prepare for the night's operation. All of their plans were within Lin Ruoxiu's grasp. At the inn where Lin Ruoxiu and the others were, they were currently fretting over dinner. As there were too many people and everyone had different tastes, it was difficult to adjust everyone's opinions. Therefore, what to eat had become their biggest problem. Looking at the master of the Ning family and the first elder who were arguing with each other, Lin Ruoxiu helplessly reminded them, "Godfather, great elder, don't quarrel. We still have things to do tonight. Don't miss the show just because you don't know what to eat." "Right. Then just eat something. The most important thing is to watch the show." The two old men immediately replied in unison. After reaching an agreement, everyone began to prepare dinner. Visit myb0x.novel.com to read, please. After dinner, they concealed themselves and made their way to the Qi clan's courtyard. The Qi clan genius was still living there, while Qi Rui had already returned to Qi City. When they arrived at the Qi family's courtyard, everyone jumped onto the roof and found a comfortable spot. They took out some small snacks and placed them in front of each other, ready to watch a good show. Looking at Lin Ruoxiu and the rest's smooth and natural movements, Master Ning and the Great Elder were both surprised. They could not help but think to themselves, seeing how they're so familiar with this, it's obvious that they've done this many times. Facing the strange looks from the two of them, Lin Ruoxiu felt extremely awkward. Actually, they rarely did such a thing as peeking on the spot. "Godfather, Great Elder, quickly find a place to sit down. It's so tiring to stand." Lin Ruoxiu wiped away the cold sweat on her forehead. Their gazes made her a little shy. Why didn't we watch from the inn? Why did we have to come here to enjoy the cool breeze?" The master of the Ning family asked, puzzled. "Godfather, how can watching a live broadcast be more enjoyable than watching a live broadcast? Besides, we're not here to watch the show." Lin Ruoxiu laughed evilly. "Ah. That's true." The master of the Ning family nodded. He was calm now. Anyway, he would listen to his good daughter. He would do whatever she asked him to do. Lin Ruoxiu and the others waited for a while. Not long after, the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance arrived with his subordinates. They sneakily surrounded the entire courtyard. Immediately after, someone from the Two Ascender Alliance shouted, "People of Qi Clan, come out and die." Chapter 1282, Fishing in Troubled Waters, 1, Who would be so bold? How dare you come to our Qi family and cause trouble? As soon as the Ascender Alliance's side finished speaking, an even louder roar came from the courtyard. In an instant, dozens of black shadows rushed out of the courtyard. The leader was a middle-aged man in his 40s. The middle-aged man glared at the Ascender Alliance's side and said loudly, "Who are you people? You actually came to our Qi family's territory to cause trouble, you really don't want to live. We are the Ascender Alliance, and we are here to settle the score with your Qi family." Someone in the Ascender Alliance shouted. "You're here to settle accounts with us? Who do you think you are, you dare to come to our Qi clan to die? Brothers, go, teach these Ascenders who don't know the immensity of the heavens and earth a good lesson." The middle-aged man ordered. With his order, the Qi family immediately drew their weapons and rushed to the front of the Ascender Alliance. Their faces were filled with an unusually fierce expression. "Brothers, let's go too, we can't let these natives look down on us." Someone in the Ascender Alliance's team shouted. "Right. I can't let them look down on me." The Ascender Alliance's members were enraged and roared together. Then, the two sides began to fight. After a long time, the two sides were still fighting. Seeing this situation, Brother Ran, who was beside the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance, couldn't help but whisper worriedly, "Alliance Master, if we let them continue fighting like this, will both sides suffer? Don't worry. I won, T. The alliance master of the second alliance was very confident in her subordinates. After all, the people she had brought were the elites of the second alliance. Moreover, there were many of them. Therefore, if they were to be injured, it would be the other party, not her own people. That's good. Little brother Ran said, feeling assured. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue and the others who were watching the show from the roof saw that it was about time. They gave Feng De and the others a look and then quietly went to the center of the battlefield to fish in troubled waters. Little girl, this move of yours is really ruthless. Ha ha ha. Seeing this, the great elder couldn't help but smile. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. I will definitely not let this alliance master of the second alliance go. It's impossible to stay out of this matter. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Although she did not want to have too much enmity with the Ascender alliance, there were some things that she could not tolerate. That Qi family's genius was someone her godfather wanted to plot against, so he could only blame it on his bad luck. Yes, the Ascender alliance's people were clearly killed by his subordinates. How could he not stand up for them? The first elder said with a smile. Visit MYB0X Novell, com to read, please. As Feng De and the others took advantage of the chaos, many people from the Ascender alliance had died mysteriously. However, no one could see any clues. The alliance master of the two alliances only saw her subordinates fall to the ground and did not see them wake up again. This could not help but make her angry. After walking closer to take a look, she found that her subordinates had all died. This fact directly raised her anger to the peak. Alliance master, calm down. Seeing this, Brother Ran quickly advised. How do you want me to calm down? Now, it's all our people who are dead. The alliance master of the second alliance roared furiously. Alliance master, many of them were also seriously injured, so they didn't gain much advantage. Brother Ran reminded. Even so, I can't just watch my subordinates die without knowing why. The second alliance's leader still felt extremely unbalanced. Alliance master, since things have come to this, we have no other choice. I didn't expect the Qi family's subordinates to have such high combat strength. It seems like we have underestimated them. The other man said gloomily. Yeah, I didn't expect that either. The leader of the second alliance said with a dark expression. Stop. Suddenly, another voice came from the courtyard, and it was a call to stop. When the Qi family members heard this, they all stopped. As for the Ascender alliance, they also took advantage of the situation and did not continue to pester him. Who are you people? You actually came to our Qi clan to cause trouble? The Qi family genius walked out of the courtyard and questioned with an unhappy expression. Young master, they claim to be the Ascender alliance. They said that they are here to settle the score with us. The middle-aged man quickly said. The Ascender alliance? Which league are you guys from? The Qi clan genius played dumb. In fact, he had long received news that people from the Ascender alliance had come to Bamboo City. However, he did not take it seriously. He did not expect that these people from the Ascender alliance would actually dare to come to his door. This was really preposterous. It was impossible for him not to know what was going on outside the courtyard. However, he did not come out immediately because he wanted his subordinates to teach the Ascender alliance a lesson. However, he did not expect that his subordinates would be so heavy-handed and kill many people from the Ascender alliance. As a result, he could no longer keep a close eye on it. Otherwise, he was afraid that the matter would become more and more difficult to deal with. The alliance head of the Ascender alliance. The alliance master of the second alliance suppressed the anger in his heart and said indifferently. So it's the arrival of the alliance master of the second alliance. The alliance master of the second alliance isn't in his own territory, but coming to my place to cause trouble. This doesn't make sense. The Qi clan genius laughed. Your subordinates have killed so many of our people. If I don't come, it'll become a laughingstock. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance said angrily. Alliance Master of the Second Alliance, you may not know this, but the people from the Second Alliance who died at the hands of my subordinates were all asking for it. If it were you, would you be able to take it lying down when you were surrounded and shouted to kill? How can you be indifferent? The Chi clan genius asked with a smile. Even so, you can't kill the people of the Second Alliance. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance roared in anger. If I don't kill them, I'm going to become your precious daughter's exclusive property, humph. She really dared to think about it. Not only did she send someone to kill me, but she also wanted me to be her exclusive sex slave. Is she worthy? The Chi clan genius sneered. You're saying that my daughter isn't good enough for you? The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance narrowed his eyes and said in an unfriendly tone. What else did you think? You're only the Alliance Master of the Second Ascender Alliance. In our Chi family, your daughter doesn't even have the right to be a servant. The Chi clan genius laughed. His words had provoked the Second Alliance Master quite a bit. Chapter 1283, Fishing in Troubled Waters. 2. The leader of the Second Alliance had always thought of herself as the best in the Divine Mainland and was extremely proud. In her heart, she also thought that she was the top figure in the Divine Mainland. As long as she set her eyes on something, she would definitely have it. Moreover, she was the only one who had the right to have any good things. However, now, she had been degraded by a direct descendant of the Chi family. This was absolutely intolerable to her proud self. Humph. You're only a direct descendant of the Chi family, and I'm sure there are as many direct descendants like you in the Chi family as there are hairs on an ox. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance retorted. Yup. However, no matter what, my identity and status are above yours. Chi clan's genius said with a smile, neither angry nor annoyed. The Alliance Master was so angry that she couldn't say anything. After all, what he said was the truth. On the Divine Mainland, she might be able to call the wind and summon the rain. However, once they were in the Divine World, their status was as different as the sky and the earth. So, although she was angry, she couldn't refute him. Alliance Master of the Second Alliance, I can spare your life for the sake of the Ascender Alliance. However, your subordinates have injured so many of my men. If you want to keep things at peace, then show me your sincerity. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving today. The Chi family's genius said with a smile. Although his subordinates had suffered some losses, the number of injuries was more than the number of deaths. In comparison, the losses of the two alliances were much more severe. Therefore, in order to not worsen the hatred between them and the Ascender Alliance, he did not care about it. However, even if he wanted to let it go, the other party might not agree. After hearing his words, the Alliance Master's face turned white with anger. Her whole body trembled and she could not speak for a long time. The man beside her saw this and could not help but speak for her. Young Master Chi, you're wrong. Compared to your Chi clan, our casualties seem to be more severe. How can you say that? Who are you? I'm talking to your president, you have no right to interrupt. The Chi clan genius said unhappily. He's my husband, so his will is my will. The Second Alliance's Alliance Master quickly said when he saw his man being wronged. Oh. I've long heard that there are many men who live off women around the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance. I'm sure these two are two of them. The Chi clan genius looked at the man beside the Alliance Master with disdain. Who are you calling a soft rice? You're the publicly acknowledged pretty boy. Our family's young miss just happens to want to provide for you, why don't you just give in? Brother Ran said angrily. What did you just say? The Chi clan genius squinted his eyes and said in an unfriendly tone. Don't you understand the human language? I said that my family's young miss wants to keep you, and I've been talking about it for many days. Brother Ran said, not afraid of death. You're looking for death. Chi family's genius shouted angrily. Then, a light blue divine power shot out from his hand. Immediately, a shooting star with a light blue light flew towards Brother Ran. Alliance Master! Help me! The shooting star brushed past him, and Brother Ran screamed before falling to the ground. Visit MYB0X Novel, com to read, please. Ran. Seeing this, the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance quickly bent down to check on his husband's injuries, only to see that his beloved husband was covered in blood and had already passed out. Chi, I won't let you go. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance roared in anger. As the saying goes, when you're angry, you'll be angry for the sake of your beauty. The man she liked was lying in front of her, covered in blood. Any woman would go crazy. After the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance finished shouting, he turned to his subordinates and shouted, "Attack! Don't let a single person from the Chi family off." With that, she charged at the Chi family genius and began to fight with him. We can go back now. Seeing that the matter was almost settled, Len Ruoshua smiled and said to the crowd. Ah! Girl, are you leaving now? The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance hasn't surrendered yet. The First Elder said with some reluctance. To be honest, he hadn't seen enough of the show. Moreover, it seemed that this was the most lively time, so he was naturally a little reluctant to leave. It's getting late, we should go back and sleep. Len Ruoshua said with a smile. Ah. Then let's go. The First Elder wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and said helplessly. After that, everyone left quietly. On the way, Fengde and the others couldn't help but ask, Miss, if we go back like this, what if that Chi family genius fails? If he fails, then well just kill him and say that it was the doing of the Ascender 2 Alliance. Len Ruoshua chuckled. Ah! Young lady, are you really going to do this? Fengde was speechless. How did Miss come up with such an idea? This was simply too evil. Poor Chi clan's genius. I wish you good luck. You must capture that Alliance Master of the Second Alliance alive. Otherwise, you'll be the one in trouble. He thought to himself sympathetically. It's hard to say, Len Ruoshua tried to play dumb. Actually, she had just said it casually. However, if the Chi family's genius really failed, she could not guarantee that she would not do the same. Ha ha ha. Silly boy. Shua, was just joking, and you took it for real. It's impossible for the Chi family's genius to fail. Don't worry, the two alliances' leaders won't let him off. Therefore, the grudge between him and the Ascender Alliance is set in stone. The master of the Ning family laughed, obviously in a good mood. Ah! What if he fails? Fengde didn't trust the Chi family's genius. Then he can only become the prisoner of the Second Alliance's Alliance Master and her daughter. He injured her husband, so how could she let him go? She'll definitely torture the Chi family's genius after capturing him. So, we just need to watch a good show. We'll see at dawn. The master of the Ning family said happily. Yes. Fengde nodded, but he couldn't help thinking in his heart that it seemed that the master of the Ning family and the young lady had the same thoughts. Woo! These two bad-hearted guys, the Chi family genius was so pitiful. They had actually joined forces to scheme against him. After returning to the inn, everyone went to sleep in peace. The next day, Qingju informed Len Ruoshua of the news the moment she woke up. Just as she had expected, the Second League's leader had been captured by the Chi family's genius and locked up in the Chi family's prison. Chapter 1284, Fishing in Troubled Waters, 3. When Len Ruoshua heard this news, she nodded her head in satisfaction. She thought to herself, thank God, the Chi family's genius didn't let me down. If he couldn't even deal with a woman, then he'll definitely look down on him. Once they were out of the room, Len Ruoshua informed everyone of the news. Shua, shouldn't we pay a visit to the Chi family's genius next? Master Ning said with a smile. Godfather, it's not a visit, it's a condolence. The Chi family courtyard was disturbed yesterday, and the news has already spread throughout the entire Ing city. We are friends, after all, and it is only right for us to visit and express our condolences. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Right. Right. It's a condolence. Master Ning said with a smile. After breakfast, Leng Ruoxue brought Feng De and the rest to the Qi family's courtyard. The butler led Leng Ruoxue and the others into the living room and went to inform the Qi family's geniuses. Not long after, the Qi clan's geniuses arrived at the living room with an exhausted expression. When they saw Leng Ruoxue and the rest, their mood was lifted. How come Miss Leng and the others are free to come today? The Qi family genius suppressed the joy in his heart and asked with a smile. We heard that the Qi family's courtyard was attacked this morning, so we're here to express our condolences. Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. Oh. I didn't expect the news to spread so quickly, even Miss Leng knows about it. The Qi clan's genius said, somewhat embarrassed. In his opinion, this was not a glorious matter. After all, he had paid a painful price to capture the two alliance's leaders alive. When he thought of this, the anger in his heart surged. However, he also knew that the conflict with the Ascender Alliance would not be resolved. Yes, everyone in the city knows about it. I heard that it was done by the Ascender Alliance. Young Master Qi, is this related to the previous incident? Leng Ruoxue asked in a probing manner. Yes, it's all that woman's fault. The Qi family's genius was very depressed. As long as he thought of that woman, his heart would itch with hatred. Originally, he didn't want to argue with the Ascender Alliance, but they didn't appreciate it. Then what does young Master Qi plan to do? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. Does Miss Leng have any good ideas? The Qi clan genius couldn't help but ask. Please read on website, myboxen0vel. To be honest, I'm considered an enemy of the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance. Naturally, I don't want her to have an easy time. Leng Ruoxue said directly. Yes, I know. The Qi clan genius nodded. After all, they had provoked the daughter of the Second Alliance together. However, the Second Ascender Alliance only looked for him to settle the score. This made him feel somewhat unbalanced in his heart. However, if he could drag Leng Ruoxue and the others down with him, he would be happy to do so. So young Master Qi, you must not let her off. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Ah. I wonder how we should deal with her to satisfy Miss Leng. The Qi clan genius asked. Young Master Qi, doesn't the Second Alliance's Alliance Master like to turn people into slaves? Then how about we turn them into slaves too? Leng Ruoxue suggested. This isn't very good. The Qi clan's genius was somewhat hesitant. If he killed the man, the Ascender Alliance would not want to offend the Qi clan no matter how angry they were. If he sold the two alliances' leaders as slaves, it would be a great humiliation to the Ascender Alliance. The Ascender Alliance would definitely not let this matter rest. You're scared? No matter how powerful the Ascender Alliance was, they would not dare to provoke the Qi family, right? What's more, don't forget that the mother and daughter are going to treat you as their exclusive property. If the mother and daughter can do such a thing, what else do you have to worry about? Could it be that you have a tender heart for the woman? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. Let's do as Miss Leng said. The Qi family genius pondered for a moment and said, yes. Since he had already offended her, why was he still worrying about this and that? However, I'm afraid that Child Qi has to deal with the Mission Guild personally. I heard that President Zheng Yan has a close relationship with the leaders of the two alliances. Leng Ruoxue reminded. In other words, she was telling them not to send any subordinates or count on others to step in. Young Lady Leng, although Zheng Yan and I can't be considered friends, we're old acquaintances. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for me to handle this matter. If young Lady Leng is willing to handle this matter on my behalf, I'll be extremely grateful. The Qi clan genius said after some thought. Since this idea was Leng Ruoxue's, he naturally couldn't let her stay out of it. Otherwise, he would suffer a huge loss. Oh. If there's no problem with helping young Master Qi, what do I get in return? Leng Ruoxue said in a businesslike manner. Ah. What benefits does Miss Leng want? The Qi clan's genius wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. How could he have forgotten that this young Miss Leng wasn't that easy to order around? Woo. He had been too careless. What kind of benefits can young Master Qi give me? Leng Ruoxue asked calmly. Actually, she really wanted to ask, just how much authority do you have? Even though it was her idea to sell the mother and daughter as slaves, it was not possible for her to run errands for nothing. 500,000 high-grade crystal stones. This is the most I can take out. The Qi clan genius said after some thought. Deal. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Even though she wasn't short of money and 500,000 high-grade crystal stones wasn't a lot in her eyes, if she didn't ask for anything, she was afraid that this genius from the Qi clan would become suspicious. Thus, she could only accept it reluctantly. Then I'll be waiting for Miss Ling's good news. The Qi clan genius said in satisfaction. He had thought that Leng Ruoxue would demand an exorbitant price. Seeing that she didn't haggle over the price, he felt much better. Young Master Qi, other than that mother and daughter, can you give me her 2 husbands? Leng Ruoxue asked indifferently. What's wrong? Miss Leng has seen her 2 husbands. The Qi clan's genius asked suspiciously when he heard Leng Ruoxue's words. I've never seen them before, but it's no secret that the president of the Second Alliance has many beautiful men by her side. I've also heard that the 2 men she's bringing with her are her most beloved ones. Leng Ruoxue pretended to be envious. And, that's true. Those 2 men are indeed extremely handsome, not the slightest bit inferior to the ones you're with. After listening to Leng Ruoxue's explanation, the Qi family's genius was relieved. Recently, he had been very suspicious, and she didn't know what was going on. Chapter 1285, Fishing in Troubled Waters, 4, Then, can young Master Qi give them to me? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. It's fine to give one to you. As for the other one, I've injured it, and it's very serious. So, even if I give it to you, I'm afraid it won't live long. The Qi clan genius said apologetically. It doesn't matter. If he really doesn't have long to live, I'll give him a proper burial. I heard that most of the men around the Second Alliance's master were snatched. He's really too pitiful. Leng Ruoxue said with a look of sympathy. I didn't expect young Miss Leng to be someone who has tender feelings for women. The Qi clan genius said with a sour feeling in his heart. Young Master Qi, we're the same. It's just that you pity women, and I. It's the exact opposite. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. That's true. The Qi family's genius replied unwillingly. In fact, the person he wanted to pity more was sitting in front of him. Unfortunately, this woman was not someone who would be at his mercy, so he could only watch helplessly. This feeling of being able to see but not being able to eat it was not a good feeling. However, as a direct descendant of a large family, it was important to adjust one's mental state. Hence, he quickly adjusted his mental state. Then, he instructed the butler to bring out the few people who were locked up in the cell yesterday, intending to hand them over to Leng Ruoxue. In the hall, the alliance leader of the Second Alliance couldn't help but shout when he saw the Qi family genius, "Damn it, let us go now. Otherwise, our Ascender Alliance will not let you off. How dare a prisoner be so arrogant? It seems that the lesson I gave you was not enough." The Qi family's genius sneered. Last night, he had ordered his subordinates to take good care of this mother and daughter. He wondered if they had done well. I won't let you off. The alliance master of the Second Alliance threatened as her beautiful eyes glowed with a cold light, as if she wanted to tear the Qi family direct descendant into pieces. Leng Ruoxue lifted her beautiful eyes and sized up the mother and daughter from the Second Alliance. Their originally bright and beautiful clothes were now in tatters, and their faces looked haggard. It was obvious that they had suffered a lot in just one night. It seemed like the genius from the Qi family did not know how to deal with the mother and daughter, but in reality, he had already done it. No wonder Qing Ju was mumbling in the morning. It seemed that the Qi family's genius did not deal with the mother and daughter in an open manner. However, this was none of her business. You can't even protect yourself now, so how can you not let me go? The Qi family genius laughed coldly, obviously treating the words of the Second Alliance leader as a joke. Our Ascender Alliance will avenge me, the leader of the Second Alliance said confidently. Oh, really? Then I'll be waiting, the Qi clan genius said nonchalantly. Since they had already become enemies, why should they care about the Ascender Alliance's attitude? Miss Leng, you can take these people away. The Qi clan genius turned to Leng Ruoxue. Please read on website, myboxin0vel. Alright, he said. Leng Ruoxue smiled and nodded. It's you. Mother. This is the woman who stole our slave. The moment the young woman saw Leng Ruoxue, she roared out in jealousy. She had even forgotten that Leng Ruoxue was now a prisoner. You're the one who snatched my slave. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance asked while suppressing his anger. Is that your slave? Leng Ruoxue laughed sarcastically and could not help but sigh to herself. Mother and daughter are mother and daughter. He didn't even look at the situation he was in right now, yet he still dared to question her so righteously. It was really ridiculous. Of course it's mine. That's the slave I put up for auction at the Quest Guild. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance roared in anger. So it was this woman who had stolen her things and caused the death of so many people from the Second Alliance. She was too despicable. At this moment, a part of her hatred towards the Qi family's direct line of descent had already been transferred to Leng Ruoxue. Since you wanted to auction it, what's wrong with me buying it? Did you not receive the money? If that's the case, then I'm afraid you can only settle the score with the Mission Guild. After all, we bought it with a clear price, right? Young Master Qi. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. That's right, I've paid for the 2 slaves. Besides, Alliance Master too, don't you realize your situation? Your current status is lower than us, what right do you have to shout at us? The Qi family genius was speechless. To be honest, he had met many people, but this was the first time he had seen such a pair of outrageous mother and daughter. Chapter 1286, Compensation, 1, You just wait. I won't let you off. The beautiful eyes of the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance glared at Leng Ruoxue and the Qi family's genius as she threatened them. Although she knew that she had no other choice, her personality and the fact that she had been in a high position for so many years had made her used to ordering people around. Hence, even though she had been reduced to a prisoner, she still could not see the situation clearly. Otherwise, she would not have done something so unwise and disadvantageous to her. Young Master Qi, someone is threatening us. What do you think? Leng Ruoxue's beautiful eyes narrowed as she asked with a faint smile. Miss Leng, since I've given them all to you, then everything about them will be up to you to decide. The Qi clan genius chuckled. In other words, he could do whatever he wanted with her and he wouldn't question her. How can I do that? They are your goods after all. I'm just running errands for you. If they are injured, you won't blame me, right? Leng Ruoxue pretended to be worried and asked. At this point in time, this Qi family's genius still did not dare to take responsibility. This was unacceptable. The Qi family genius gritted his teeth and couldn't help but secretly complain. This woman in front of him really didn't want to suffer any losses. It seemed that it was impossible for him to get rid of the 2 league leaders. That's good. I'm relieved. Fengde, take them and let's go back. Leng Ruoxue smiled at Fengde and the rest. Then, she turned to the Qi family's genius and said, Young Master Qi, we will take our leave now. Everything will be done as you said. All right. The Qi family genius was depressed. What did he mean by, just do as he said? The idea of selling the mother and daughter as slaves was clearly thought of by this woman in front of him. Now, she had actually pushed the blame onto him. He could not deny it in front of Leng Ruoxue, otherwise, Leng Ruoxue would have to quit. After Leng Ruoxue and the rest left, the butler looked at their backs and asked the Qi family genius worriedly, "Young master, will this cause any trouble?" "What trouble can there be? They're just two small characters in the Ascender Alliance," the Qi clan genius said unhappily. Since he had already decided to do this, why would he care about the trouble? There would definitely be trouble, and it would not be small. However, since things had come to this, he couldn't care so much. With that, the Qi family genius returned to his room in a huff. After Leng Ruoxue and the rest achieved their goal and left the Qi family courtyard, they immediately returned to the inn. When they reached the room, Leng Ruoxue ordered people to keep an eye on the four of them. The mother and daughter were to be sold as slaves, and she had to find Xing Yan to do this. As for the other two, Leng Ruoxue brought Feng De and the rest to the room where the two men were locked up. After they entered, she ordered Feng De to give the two of them some pills. Little brother Ran, who was on the verge of death, immediately became as lively as a dragon. "Thank you for saving my life, miss," the two handsome men said in unison. "No need to thank me. You've done what you were supposed to do. From now on, you're free," Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Please read on website, myboxin0vel.com. In the information she had given them, there was a detailed record of every man who was with the Master of the Second Alliance. Therefore, when she found out that the Master of the Second Alliance had come to Ing City, she had sent someone to find the two of them and promised that as long as they cooperated with her plan, she would set them free. Although the two men appeared to be gentle and considerate to the Master of the Second Alliance, they actually hated that woman to the core. Therefore, they were easily persuaded by the person she had sent. Otherwise, the trip to the Qi family courtyard would not have been so smooth. Since they were working for her, she had to ensure their safety. After hearing her words, the two men did not show any joy on their faces. After a long while, "To be honest, miss, we have no home to return to. Back then, in order to force us to marry her, that woman used our family members to threaten us. Later on, we pretended to be snakes and slowly learned from her that our family members couldn't stand her torture and humiliation. Some died, and some committed suicide. What are your plans?" Leng Ruoxue asked softly after hearing what Brother Ran said. "We don't know. We are weak and have been kept in captivity for so many years. I'm afraid we can't survive on this continent. The godly mainland is a place where the strong prey on the weak. People without strength and status can't survive," the other man said. "Moreover, if the Ascender Alliance knows what we have done, I'm afraid they won't let us go," Brother Ran said. "How about this? I'll give you a sum of money. You can find a small city to live and cultivate in," Leng Ruoxue said after some thought. The two men looked at each other, then knelt down and said in unison, "We don't want money. With our strength, we can't keep the money even if we have it. We might even cause an unexpected disaster. So, we dare to ask Miss to take us in. We're willing to be your slaves, just to have a place to stay." Leng Ruoxue looked at the two men who were kneeling in front of her and remained silent for a long time. To be honest, she was not willing to cause such trouble, so she would rather spend money to dismiss them. However, these two men were speaking the truth. They really had nowhere else to go. Sigh. Should he take them in? Looking at his conflicted expression, Feng De chuckled and said, "Miss, didn't they want to find a place to stay? Just let them go to northern Yen City. The city lord's mansion just happens to be lacking servants to do odd jobs. Are you willing to do so?" Feng De turned around and asked the two men. "We are willing," the two men said without any hesitation. "You'd better think clearly first. You're free now, but once you go to the city lord's mansion, you'll be servants. So, you'll have to think carefully before you choose," Feng De reminded him with a smile. We've already decided. The two of them said in unison. They would rather be servants than wander around. Alright, since that's the case, you guys can play dead first. Fengde said with a smirk. Ah. Pretending to be dead. The two of them were stunned, not understanding what Fengde meant. Chapter 1287, Compensation, 2. If you don't play dead, do you want that woman to think that you're still alive? It's said that the two of you are the ones she dotes on the most. So, her biggest blow will be your deaths. Fengde's face was affable, but the words he said were very vicious. Good. Well played dead. The two of them shouted after hearing Fengde's words. Then eat these 2 pills, and you'll have nothing to do with this. Fengde took out 2 black elixirs and handed them to the two of them. After dealing with the 2 men, Leng Ruoxue and the rest went to the room where the Alliance master and daughter were kept. As soon as they entered, the young woman began to curse. That damned woman. We won't let you off for treating us like this. Fengde, block her mouth. Leng Ruoxue did not even spare the young lady a glance as she instructed Fengde, all right. Fengde took out a smelly cloth from somewhere, opened the young woman's mouth, and stuffed the cloth in. Woo! The young woman struggled, but she was tied up like a dumpling and had no way of breaking free. Be appointed. Your fate is now in our hands. After Fengde finished speaking, he took out another piece of cloth and covered the Alliance master's mouth to prevent them from saying anything unpleasant. Woo! The Alliance master of the Second Alliance shook his head vigorously. He wanted to say something but could not. He could only glare at Leng Ruoxue fiercely, as if he wanted to cut her into 1,000 pieces. Bring them in. Leng Ruoxue turned around and shouted. Yes. The door was pushed open, and Lin Yuan and the others carried the 2 men in. When the Alliance master of the Second Alliance saw this, her eyes widened even more, and her beautiful eyes were red as though they were asking, what did you do to them? Second Alliance master, your 2 beloved men were heavily injured and have passed away. Leng Ruoxue said emotionlessly. Woo! The Alliance master's eyes were bloodshot as he looked at the 2 men on the ground in disbelief. Their faces were abnormally pale and they were emitting a frighteningly cold aura. They had clearly been dead for a while. Please read on website, myboxen0vel. Calm, Fengde, remove the cloth from her mouth first. Don't suffocate our Lord Alliance Master. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Yes. Yes, Fengde replied. After he finished speaking, he removed the cloth from the mouth of the Alliance Master. You killed them. I won't let you off. As soon as Bu Gang took it off, the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance shouted at the top of his lungs. I didn't kill them. Leng Ruoxue said softly. Who is that? The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance had a look of disbelief on her face. They were still alive just a moment ago, but now they were dead. This detestable woman must have something to do with this. Hence, she did not believe Leng Ruoxue's words at all. It's you. They already knew that you killed their families, and now that they see you, they won't have a good ending. They felt that they had gotten their revenge and there was no joy in life, so they committed suicide. Leng Ruoxue stated this fact indifferently. This was a fact that the self-righteous Alliance Master of the Second Alliance could not accept. No. This was impossible. How did they know? You lied to me. I don't believe your words. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance was a little crazy as he shouted in a daze. These are the last words they left for you. If you don't believe me, you can see for yourself. After Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, she passed Fengde a piece of paper, indicating for him to show it to the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance. Nah. Take a good look and see if it's their handwriting. Fengde showed the paper to the leader of the Second Alliance and reminded him. The Alliance Master's eyes widened. She wanted to carefully confirm the handwriting on the paper and find any traces of imitation. However, she was disappointed to find out that it was indeed the handwriting of her 2 beloved ones. After all, they had lived together for so long and she was very familiar with everything about them. The paper was indeed as the woman in front of her had said. Her two beloved ones had committed suicide. This fact made her collapse. My condolences. I'll give them a proper burial for you. Leng Ruoxue said calmly. Can I personally watch them be buried? The Second Alliance's alliance master was begging for Dao, but she still refused to give up. She didn't believe that the man who had just shared a bed with her was gone just like that. How could she accept this fact? Prisoners don't have the right to ask for it. You should be satisfied that I'm willing to bury them. From now on, you should be a good slave and atone for your sins. Leng Ruoxue laughed coldly. Even at this point, this woman still refused to give up. She really didn't know if it was because of her overconfidence or if she really couldn't see the truth in front of her. He felt sorry for her, but she asked for it. With that, Leng Ruoxue led the group away. Before they left, Fengde was afraid that they would be too noisy, so he naturally used the stinky cloth to shut the Alliance Master's mouth. After leaving the room where the Second Alliance's leader was locked up, the people who had been holding their breath all this time finally heaved a sigh of relief. Fengde, where did you get those 2 pieces of cloth? It's really stinky. Leng Ruoxue could not help but ask. He. Miss, it was the innkeeper of this inn who helped me find it. Fengde said honestly. Oh. It seems that the manager of this inn is also a black-bellied guy. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Yes, Qi Rui must have told him before he left. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so cooperative. Fengde said. The shopkeeper was very polite to them now, and his attitude was very good. That's for sure. Fengde, bring a few people with you to the Mission Guild. The rest of you, stay in the inn and watch the mother and daughter. Leng Ruoxue said after some thought. It was time for her to show herself and make a trip to the Guild of Missions. Yes. Fengde replied. Then, he, Lin Yuan, Chen Wu, and Leng Ruoxue accompanied Demon to the Missions Guild. When they arrived at the Mission Guild, they found that the door of the Mission Guild was left ajar, so they pushed the door open and walked in. The waiter, who had been busy with his task for the past few days, had to stand up to welcome their client when he saw him. His face still had a trace of fatigue. How come you're here so fast? We haven't finished all our tasks yet. The waiter said apologetically. Chapter 1288, Compensation, 3, It's okay, we have another mission. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. The moment the waiter heard Leng Ruoxue's words, his expression changed. What other missions are there? The waiter asked carefully, his voice trembling. In order to complete their task, they had not had a good night's sleep these days. Now that they had not completed the task they had been assigned, who knew that another task would come? How could they live? Only your guild leader can do this quest. Leng Ruoxue laughed as she said. She then walked past the waiter and led the group upstairs. In the president's office. Zheng Yan was sitting inside and drinking tea, looking very relaxed. When he saw someone push the door open and enter, he was about to start scolding, but when he realized it was Leng Ruoxue and the others, he could only swallow his words. Miss, why are you here? Zheng Yan asked curiously. As far as he knew, their mission had not been completed yet. If it was completed, someone would naturally deliver it to the inn for them. Therefore, he was very puzzled. Why would someone who was said to be in closed-door cultivation come to the Mission Guild? President Zheng, you're really free. Your subordinates are all busy, but you're leisurely drinking tea in your office. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. After she finished speaking, she found a seat and sat down. Hee, miss, you really know how to joke. As the president, I naturally don't have to do everything by myself. After all, there are more important things waiting for me to do. Zheng Yan said with a smile. President Zheng is right. I'm here because I have an important task to entrust to you. Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. Ah. Is there anything else you need, miss? Zheng Yan's heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, could it be something broken again? These days, his subordinates had all been complaining, which annoyed him to death. However, for the sake of the top-grade fire attribute crystal, he had to force them to do it. I would like to ask President Singh to help me get 2 slots for slaves. In addition, I would like to hold a special slave auction. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Ah! Didn't Miss already release the 2 slaves she bought? Could it be that they didn't listen to her, so Miss is regretting it now? Zheng Yan asked with a gossipy look. No, I'm talking about the other 2, Leng Ruoxue laughed. Oh. No problem. As long as Miss hands over the names of those 2, I will be responsible for handling everything for Miss. Zheng Yan said with a smile. Then I'll have to trouble President Singh. These are their names. After Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, she handed over a piece of paper. Please read on website, myboxin0vel. Calm. Zheng Yan took the paper and looked at it, and his expression changed drastically. Why did these 2 names sound so familiar? If he didn't remember wrongly, the Ascender Alliance's Alliance Master and her daughter seemed to be called by these 2 names. Miss, these 2 people's names are exactly the same as a friend I know. I wonder who they are, Zheng Yan asked tentatively. This coincidence was a bit too much. If only one person had the same name, it would barely be considered normal. However, it was definitely abnormal for 2 people to have the same name. May I know who President Singh's friend is? Leng Ruoxue asked despite knowing the answer. Ah. The friend I know is the Alliance Master of the Ascender Alliance's second alliance. Zheng Yan said as he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. What a coincidence. These 2 slaves of mine were the mother and daughter of the 2 Ascender Alliance. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. What? Zheng Yan was shocked. He stood up from his seat with a whoosh. He really didn't expect that the beautiful woman in front of him, the person who was going to become a slave, was an acquaintance of his. How could this be? President Singh, are you very surprised? Wasn't the divine realm where the strong were respected? Even though the Second Alliance's Alliance Master had once been a force to be reckoned with, she's now just my prisoner. By the way, the person she offended is a direct descendant of the Qi family. I'm just running errands for him. Leng Ruoxue said with a half-smile. Why did she offend the Qi family's direct line of descent? Zheng Yan was very surprised. He knew that woman's nature very well. He knew that she was arrogant and didn't put anyone in her eyes. However, he didn't expect her to have the courage to offend a direct descendant of the Qi family. Wasn't she courting death? It is said that she led the Ascender Alliance to besiege the Qi clan's courtyard and killed many of the Qi clan's guards. Of course, she also suffered heavy losses and even became a prisoner of the Qi clan's direct descendant. The cause of this was the 2 slaves that young Master Qi had taken from the Mission Guild a few days ago. Do you understand what I'm saying, President Singh? Leng Ruoxue asked as she stared at Zheng Yan. Understood. Zheng Yan's face turned pale. In fact, he did not care about what would happen to the mother and daughter of the Ascender Alliance. It was just that when he thought about how he had handled the 2 slaves taken away by the Qi family's direct descendants and how the stupid mother and daughter had come to his door to seek revenge, he felt a chill in his heart. Coupled with the words of the woman in front of him, he had a bad feeling. Since you understand, will President Singh handle this matter well? Leng Ruoxue asked calmly. Don't worry, miss. Leave this matter to me. It'll be absolutely safe. Zheng Yan said hurriedly, the cold sweat in his heart dripping down. He knew that this matter was the revenge of the Qi family's direct descendants and this young lady in front of him against the mother and daughter pair. If he refused or did not do his best, then the next person they would deal with would be him. Therefore, the situation was pressing, and he had no choice but to lower his head. Since that's the case, I'll wait for President Singh's good news. I wonder how the fee will be calculated. Leng Ruoxue thought for a while and asked. I'll handle this matter for you free of charge. Zheng Yan said a little fearfully. Now, he only hoped to send this big trouble away. How would he dare to mention money? AI. Now, he finally knew that money was not easy to earn. And the mission of this young lady in front of him was even more of a hot potato. He couldn't take it. Free of charge? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. Ah. Otherwise, what would Miss mean? Zheng Yan was extremely depressed. He had already said that it was free. Why was this lady still not satisfied? Could it be that he wanted him to pay for it? Chapter 1289, Compensation. 4. President Zheng, to be honest, the 2 slaves that young Master Qi bought, the ones that I asked you to help me release, are my friends. How do you think we should settle this debt? Leng Ruoxue asked in a carefree manner. Ah. I wonder what young lady wants to do. Zheng Yan wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and asked carefully with a smile. He was so nervous that his palms were sweating because he knew that the other party was going to settle the score with him. After all, he had helped the 2 of them to become slaves. Although he was not the mastermind, he could be considered an accomplice. What should he do now? At this moment, his heart was in a mess, and he didn't know what to do. My friend was sold as a slave by your friend, and President Zheng actually asked me what I wanted to do. What do you think I should do? Leng Ruoxue asked instead of answering. This, Zheng Yan was so anxious that he was sweating profusely, but he didn't know how to start. Is President Zheng in a difficult position? Leng Ruoxue asked with a hint of mockery. I told you to recognize money and not people, but now you're going to reap what you sow, miss. If you have any requests, just tell me. As long as it's within my means, I'll definitely do my best. Zheng Yan mumbled. President Zheng, seeing that this isn't the first time we've met, I'll be honest. My 2 friends have been deeply affected by this matter and are now on the verge of collapse. So, you should think about how you can compensate my 2 friends. After you've made up your mind, look for me at the inn. Otherwise, you'll regret it. Leng Ruoxue warned. With that, Leng Ruoxue led Feng De and the rest out of the mission's guild. Ah. Miss. Zheng Yan looked at Leng Ruoxue's and the others' back view in a daze. He felt extremely depressed. How would he know how he was going to compensate them? Why didn't he make things clear before leaving? Leng Ruoxue, Feng De, and the rest quickly returned to the inn. In the living room, Master Ning looked at Leng Ruoxue and the rest who had returned so quickly. He was puzzled and asked, why did you come back so quickly? Could it be that Zheng Yan doesn't know what's good for him? Don't be afraid. Your godfather will make the decision for you. I'll think of a way to make him lose his position as the president tomorrow. Godfather, what are you thinking? Of course, we'll come back when we're done. Leng Ruoxue said with a helpless smile. Oh. How about that? Did it go smoothly? The master of the Ning family asked with concern. It's all right. He once told me to make my own request, but I refused. Leng Ruoxue said honestly. Please read on website, myboxin0vel.com. Well, it's good to reject them. Why should we take the initiative to ask for their help when they did something wrong? It's as if we robbed him. The master of the Ning family praised. He was assured that this good daughter would do things well. She was much better than the descendants of his family. I'll let him think about it himself. Leng Ruoxue added. Yes, that's right. If we're not satisfied with the compensation he can come up with, he naturally can't pass. The master of the Ning family said with a smirk, but he couldn't help but praise in his heart. This good daughter was really more and more pleasing to the eye. He had his style. The next day, Zheng Yan couldn't wait any longer and personally came to visit. He sat in the living room and faced everyone's unfriendly gazes. He felt as if he was sitting on pins and needles and was restless, but he had no choice but to come. Is President Zheng here to send me a slave certificate? When's the special auction? Leng Ruoxue played dumb. Ah. Miss, that mission is currently being completed. I've come today specifically for the matter of compensation. Zheng Yan smiled apologetically. His heart was beating fast and cold sweat was dripping from his forehead. President Zheng, have you thought it through? Leng Ruoxue chuckled as she asked. Yes, this is the compensation that I have thought of. If Miss is not satisfied with it, I can make some changes. Zheng Yan said gloomily and passed a piece of paper to Leng Ruoxue. This was probably the most depressing thing he had ever encountered since he became the president. It was just a simple slave contract, but he had to go bankrupt and have to pay compensation. He was really about to vomit blood. Leng Ruoxue took it and glanced at it casually, but she did not say anything. Instantly, Zheng Yan's heart was in his throat. Woo! She did not speak for so long. What was the meaning of this? To be honest, if this matter didn't involve the direct descendants of the Qi family, he might not be so happy to compensate. One had to know that this was all his private money. After all, he didn't dare to use the guild's money for personal use, and he also didn't dare to report this matter to the headquarters. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to continue being the guild leader. Is there anything that young Miss is not satisfied with? Zheng Yan asked carefully. Does President Zheng think that he'll be satisfied with such compensation? Leng Ruoxue placed the piece of paper on the table beside her and asked indifferently.